Welcome back to the Rodcast, as we love to call it. Oh, thank God we can call it a freak flag, feel good, fake it till you make it. Ric Flair, woo! Football 512 Friday edition of the Rodcast. And yes, that means we're talking plenty of football. And unfortunately, for Texans fans, we got to talk about that dumpster fire of an ish show we watched last night. We'll talk about that for the Texans. We'll also get into some other NFL action. Of course, we'll look ahead to the Cowboys, their big game coming up this weekend against the Atlanta Falcons. We'll talk about that as well and preview it. No Longhorn game this weekend, but of course, we're always talking Longhorn football. We'll go behind the burnt orange curtain next segment. I've been doing some bi-week research about the Longhorns, so I'll share some of those notes with you coming up next segment. We'll also get into some of the other college football action. Got a big game coming up this weekend, Ohio State and Penn State. That's a big top 10 matchup, so we'll break that down. We'll also have all your usual favorites on the show, of course. We got What the Facts, What the Stats. We got Off the Record. We got Who Said That. We got the topic for the big fat poll of the day. We are loaded on a Friday as usual, and glad you could join us. Hope everybody had a great Halloween holiday last night, and we'll talk about a little bit of that. But before we do, let's introduce you to the rest of the crew. He's one of the hardest working members of the ARN family. Got a hustler spirit, period. Not sure what he's paid, but pretty damn sure the man is underpaid. Ain't no 401k for this hustler, and he's a hustle man of many talents. It's our friend, co-host, and neighbor, Davis, y'all. What's going on, Patrick? How you doing, brother?
I'm doing all right. It was I hope everybody had a good Halloween and a safe Halloween and got all the candy you wanted. As bad as that game was, it was added into it that I wasn't sure what I was going to be doing last night, and I thought maybe I'll go over to a friend's house and we'll hand out candy over there. Maybe I'll go. Like, I didn't quite know what I was going to do, so I didn't buy any candy. So it was like, I'm not buying any, and we don't normally get that many people anyway. So it was like, I'm just not going to buy because I may not be at home. And if I am, I'm just watching the game. And what that meant was then not only was I just sitting there, it ends up that I don't go anywhere and I'm just at the house watching the game. And so I'm like, okay, I'll have that game on. I'll have the Spurs game on. And then, but because I'm not handing out candy, I'm now doing that in darkness. Because now I have to have the lights off because I don't want anybody to come up and be like, God.
You can't.
So now I have the lights off. Watching
that's just etiquette.
This dumpster fire of a game. And it was, you were like, at least, I should have at least gotten some candy so that I could have had the lights on if someone came up. Then it would have been a reprieve to get up and a reason to get up and watch couch.
Yes.
But I told you before, man, there's sometimes that this job is not fun. And it's when you're like, I'm at home by myself, sober on Halloween, not handing out candy, watching one of the worst football games I've ever watched. And
I'm with you. I'm glad I had candy. Needed some alcohol. Had some of that too. Yep, you're going to need it if you're a Texans fan trying to watch that, or if you're anybody other than a Jets fan watching that.
I think Jets fans. I can't understand even though they won, the amount of times they shot themselves in the foot in that game was insane. Like,
it was, but they found a way to win it.
They found a way to win it, but man, that was an ugly game. I had some friends who were at the game. Were there, and I can't imagine they had a fun time being there either. It was not overall great, but you know what, we did make it to Friday, so that will be the good part of it. Let me introduce my co-host. He's a proud alumni of DBU. He's got more papers than Dunder Mifflin and watches more film than Siskel and Ebert. He is a new Rodfather of Austin Sports Radio, Mr. Rod Babers.
I appreciate the intro. Yeah, we'll talk about it and dive into it. It was, at least if you're a Jets fan, they got off the losing streak, the 5-game losing streak. And I told you guys last night, it's crazy, and it's just the way it works out, that Aaron Rodgers had been on a 5-game losing streak twice in his career prior to this Jets previous 5-game losing streak they were on to beating the Texans. And to break that 5-game losing streak each time, Aaron Rodgers bounced back with a 3-touchdown performance, 0 interceptions at home to snap the streak each time. And he did it again. Told you guys, I was like, it's something about him. Once he gets to 5 games, it's like, all right, I've had enough. And it looked like he was gonna, because of his first half performance, what was he, 50% completion percentage, 56 passer rating. Looked like, oh man, it looks like Aaron Rodgers not gonna be able to put the cape on and save the day. In the second half, he put the cape on, and that's when you saw Aaron. Now, Aaron Rodgers wasn't the only one that had cape, because that Garrett Wilson catch is one for the ages. I did not think it was in at first, but then turns out I love how you learn new stuff about the catch rule all the time. Like the NFL, like they expand the definition. You learn new
Yeah.
stuff about it that you actually can tap the toe and the shin, and that counts as 2 feet. It's like, oh, I didn't know that.
I thought that the same foot twice might be 2 feet too, but apparently that's not a thing.
It might be. It might be
But
patched in the future.
he had the same foot in twice because he had his foot in when he caught it, and then he jumped on that foot again. I would assume that was 2 feet, yet that was not mentioned once. That you were like, wait, so if you hop on one foot to the end zone and get pushed out 20 times, it's still no. Both feet got to hit.
You got to, yeah.
That was I
didn't know the shin part though. I didn't know that you could do the shin. And then it counts. So you learn new stuff about it. But either way, the catch was so damn good. I even told my wife at the time, I said they should give it to him. They should give this man this catch. You want this on the highlight reel for the rest of time. Yeah. So if it's close, give it to him. Make up some new rule, the shin rule. Give it to him, whatever it is. Like give that dude that catch because it was unbelievable.
I know the shin thing because of fumbles. It's much more of fumbles. Where it's if you're down, if the shin touches, so it makes sense that it would be on the catch as well.
Yes, but it did. Yeah, but I don't think I've ever heard the shin thing when it comes to the catch rule, and then like, oh no, it's like all of a sudden, oh no, the shin counts too. But either way, it should have counted because that was the highlight of the night. I mean, that was a catch for the ages.
Yes.
That to me, that's what made the game. And honestly, it sparked them. That's when the Jets started their ascent. That's when they started their comeback. They were down at that point. It was like, oh, man, that ain't looking good for the Jets. And then he made that catch, and then it ignited something on that team. It really did. I mean, that was his second, the other one-handed catch, too. He had another one-handed touchdown catch that he had on Petrie early in the game. Garrett Wilson was just he was in the zone, man. There's no doubt about that. That dude was in the zone. He had 10 targets, 9 receptions, 90 yards. Those 2 touchdowns were 2 of the best touchdowns of the season. Devontae Adams got in on it too, 7 for 91, and he also got a touchdown. Also picking on Jalen Petrie.
Yep,
they picked on Jalen Petrie.
They sure did.
That was clear. It was clear they picked on him. So honestly, you got to give a lot of props to the Jets. We'll talk about the Texans, but first I want to give some props to the Jets. They Garrett Wilson catch. It ignited that team, and Aaron Rodgers in the second half. I mean, he was a different quarterback. In the second half, he went 15-18, 179 yards, 3 touchdowns, and a 147 passer rating. He had a 56 passer rating in the first half. And in that first half, it was one of the worst performances, actually, that we've seen from Aaron Rodgers in his career. His 32 passing yards were the fewest in a half with 10-plus pass attempts in his career. His previous low was 37 on 12 attempts versus the Broncos in 2015. It was just it was one of those things where he flipped the switch. We talk about guys who have the ability to flip the switch. He really did flip the switch, and we'll see if this means something for the Jets. But I think ultimately for me, this was more about the Texans and the Texans coming up short, and the Texans being their own worst enemy at times. And the Texans, and I said it yesterday, if they don't learn how to protect CJ Stroud, I'm going to come in here and I'm going to bring a panic button, and I might have to press it. Well, I think I'm close to pressing a panic button.
I mean, we're now at. I'll put it this way:
right now, it's my button. Yeah, sorry. So to press my panic button there.
No, I mean we're at the point where if you come out next week and there's zero change to how this offensive line plays, you're like, well, okay, first of all, Chris Jones is going to get 8 sacks by himself when you play the Chiefs.
I'm on the panic button already. You guys, how about this? I'll give you a factoid about CJ Stroud. This is, like I said, this is scary. In the last 3 games, he's faced his 3 highest pressure rates of his career.
So this is something I've noticed, and I think this is about the last 3 games. I have to go back, which I'm not going to do, and watch all these games over again. But the thing that I've noticed is, early in the season they were getting so many pre-snap penalties. And the offensive line. It feels like one of the things they did to fix that was not fix the offensive line getting pre-snap penalties. It was get to the line later. Don't break a huddle. Get to the line with under 10 seconds, especially on the play clock, but under 5 normally. And get to the play. Get there super late, and then you can't get a pre-snap penalty because you just have to hike the ball as soon as you get to the line.
It's a terrible idea.
It's an awful idea, but it appears to be what they've done because the pre-snap penalties have gone down, but the amount of times they're breaking the huddle and getting there with under 10 seconds. And you go, well, how are you diagnosing anything this defense is doing?
And not just that, you've pretty much narrowed down the time where, as a defense, when I know you're going to snap the ball. I know you're not going to wait to
Yes.
the very last second. So I can pretty much
sometimes
know
they
that if you
are
got
because there was times they were getting under 5 seconds, like still walking to the line.
Yeah.
And it's just so it feels like one of their solutions to pre-snap penalties was don't give the time to get a pre-snap penalty, which is the laziest and worst solution I've seen. But I can't say another solution because I saw it so many times where I've started to notice it a couple weeks ago. And then last week I was like, they're getting out of that huddle really, really late. Like you need to be able to get up there because I'm watching saying, well, no wonder you're not setting protections. You don't have time. You're literally walking up to the line, you look up at the defense and hike the ball.
That's idiotic if that's indeed what they're doing.
I don't know if that's I don't know if that's just
idiotic.
I don't know if that's part of it that Bobby Slowick's getting the play call in too slow. I don't know if it's CJ Stroud is reading the play calls too slow. I don't know if they're getting to the huddle too slow back. I can't tell you if that's the solution or if that's just another problem they have. But it is a definite problem they have because they'll do that and then immediately the offensive line gets beat. Because they don't know what they're doing. They literally sit down and go, we know the play, but if they run anything defensively that isn't lined up to what we're set up to do, it's an easy sack.
Yeah. No, like I said, to me, that's a problem. If that was part of the solution, now the cure is worse than the disease, or just as bad.
But that's what you say when you talk about that pressure rate in the last 3 games. That's when I started to notice how late they're getting out of that huddle. And so
that's idiotic. It really does. Like that's for so many reasons. That's idiotic because you don't. How do your audibles work if you're getting to the line that
I'm with you, right? And this is the thing is I can't say that this was an adjustment that they did this to not get pre-snap penalties, but I can say the amount of times they're getting to the line where they are walking to the line with single digits on the play clock in the first half, second, like. But
my thing was, if you're tracking anything, let's say that what's their solution, and you're tracking it, you've had the 3 worst pass protection games and the highest pressure rates generated on CJ Stroud in his career in the last 3 games. So at this point, if that was your solution, then we should be now moving away from that and being like, oh, guys, actually, that's actually hurting things more. We're worse because of that solution. So if that is the case, then we shouldn't see that anymore.
Well, and no matter
because in the last 3 weeks, it has not worked at all. It's not remedied their issue. And the Jets racked up 33 pressures, guys. 33 pressures overall with the Jets. Hell, how about this one? This will upset me too. Because guys are not only they don't work well together as a unit, so there's no cohesion and communication, but they're just getting your best players on the O-line and getting whipped one-on-one. Will McDonald generated a season high 9 pressures on 33 pass rushes. 6 of those came on 15 matchups with Laramie Tunsil. Your best pass blocking offensive lineman. He had 15 matchups against him and had 6 pressures on those 15 matchups. McDonald now has generated, I think, at least a pressure on like 20%, 20% pressure rate in 6 games this season. But anyway, then Hassan Reddick, right? He came back too. He generated 8 pressures on 32 pass rushes in his second game with the Jets. He recorded 6 pressures in 21 matchups against Titus Howard, your right tackle.
Mm-hmm.
So your right tackle and your left tackle are just getting beat straight up too. I mean, they're just getting beat straight up. And in addition to, and your interior O-line, this is the stat they threw out actually during the game. Your interior offensive lines, that's just the tackles in the game. But in weeks 1 through 8, prior to this game, and by the way, Kenyon Green left the game, which was also now a concern. 15 and a half sacks have been allowed by your interior offensive line. That's the most in the NFL. And 30 pressures allowed by the interior offensive line are also the most in the NFL. So we're talking about when your tackles go up against elite pass rushers, they don't hold up. And your interior offensive line is the worst pass blocking interior offensive line in the NFL. This is not sustainable. And Patrick, I'll give you one more and give you the floor. CJ Stroud, first player to be sacked 8+ times and complete 11 or fewer passes in a game since, wait for it, Zach Wilson for the Jets Jets in 2021. It's getting worse.
It is.
It's getting worse, Patrick.
It
is getting worse. Like I said, what you brought up is a great observation. They should abandon that solution.
And I'm not even saying if that is not. It's just a byproduct of something else. Fix that.
It's still bad. Yeah.
Yes,
either way,
fix that. That has to stop. So
Yes.
you have to start
Agreed.
getting the line with more time so you can so you can see the defense, so you can call audibles when you need to call audibles, so you can dictate the game and trust your quarterback to go out and make the right calls, as opposed to sticking him out there and, hey, Bobby Slowick called it, we're running it.
Yeah.
Because I know Bobby Slowick, we loved him last year, but right now he does not get the benefit of the doubt as a young play caller, because he is finding solutions which are, let's have our quarterback throw off balance running throws. 50-60% of his throws is off balance. We're gonna how are we gonna
scramble drills?
Yeah, we're gonna run scramble drills basically the
Scramble
entire
drills.
game.
Yep.
I mean, and wait, how apt is it that Kenyon Green gets hurt by getting his own quarterback thrown on top of him? You go, it's man, I know it's sad. I don't want to see any player get hurt, but that's the way you get hurt right there. Is what happened? Oh, my own quarterback got thrown on top of me when I was on the ground.
I was on the no, that's the irony of it. Yeah, you're right about that.
Yeah, and I mean, like his name was coming up in trade rumors that the Texans may just trade him.
They were,
and I mean, now you can't really, because he's not going to pass a physical. Because I think they were saying that he may have a broken arm.
Ooh.
That was what they were at least taking him in for X-rays. I don't know. Maybe they came back negative. Maybe he'll be okay, and they can. But yeah, when we asked the poll yesterday, what would you trade for? Does that offensive line seem more reasonable now?
Yeah, I gotta tell you, I don't understand what's going on. These issues, like I said, I remember we talked about the Texans after week 1. I said, man, that offensive line looks leaky. I said, it looks very leaky. I've been saying that since week 1. There's no way they haven't seen the same thing. Obviously, opponents have seen the same thing because they're attacking that weakness now. And for 3 weeks in a row, D'Amico has yet to solve the problem. They got to figure something out. And I would thought the running game would help because they've been leaning on Joe Mixon. Yeah. The running, it hasn't helped. And how is that possible? That Joe Mixon's been having a great run here of a stretch of games where he's been healthy and productive, and that still isn't helping your pass protection at all either.
No, I mean, and I mean, part of it is they would get put in 3rd and longs, and they were trying to throw deep on 3rd. Long. And if you get put in those, and then they just pin their ears back, you're done. Because this offensive line is not good enough to stop anybody.
I know, but you're supposed to have the chains with a running. You got a running game.
I get that, but again, that goes back to Bobby Slowick. And I get you don't want to just. You're basically saying we can't really throw on 3rd down because they're coming after us on 3rd downs.
If it's 3rd and short and 3rd and medium, you might be able to.
But now we're going on to 3rd and. I mean, even the 3rd down. One of the 3rd downs they picked up was C.J. Stroud running. C.J. Stroud had 50 yards running.
Oh no, he's scrambling. You can tell he's scrambling more now. He's like, no, I'm not staying in his damn pocket.
And he goes, I'm not throwing the ball and taking a hit. I can get to the sideline. Like I'm on the ground half the game. Even when I'm getting the ball out, I'm getting hit. It was brutal to watch it. There was so many, and it was. You just keep watching, trying to figure out what's going on. That you just get watch guys get bull rushed and get beat.
It's all thing. Yeah, it's everything. It's
you watch them not pick guys up.
Yep.
You watch them not have community, and you watch them get to the line late. You watch all these pieces, and you go, all these seem like they're there. That if I'm the Texans, I don't understand how your offensive line coach still has a job. Like I get you can be nice and everything else, but at this point, you have to go, man. Like you can move down. Someone else has to be hired to be brought in here because whatever you're doing, it's getting worse.
Yeah. We've seen
you're not coaching these guys
get demoted. Coordinators get demoted and stuff all the time. You don't really hear about position coaches that get changed, but it happens. I'm with you on this. I think you might need to consider that if you guys have gone through multiple solutions to try to solve the problem and none of it's getting remedied or rectified. You gotta take drastic action because this thing could derail the season. Your O-line play right now is one of the worst in the NFL in terms of pass protection. I think run blocking actually is still pretty good, but pass protection wise, one of the worst in the league. This could derail your season because it could get your quarterback hurt.
Well, not only that, you watch it, 8 sacks. He's under pressure. I mean, it's his worst game. Probably. I mean, throwing under 50%. He was just awful because there was 0 time for most of his throws, and then the times he had time was because they rushed like 3. And so they dropped everybody back, and so now no one's going to be open. Because
especially now without Nico and now without Stephon Diggs, nobody's can really get open. It's Tank Dell got open. He's a dude. The rest of them, it's just tough. Those guys aren't necessarily. They aren't.
And I mean,
guys.
And we saw one Mechie got open, should have gotten a touchdown, and CJ missed him because he's moving. And,
I saw that.
And if you're like, if he has a clean pocket, he probably hits that throw.
Yep.
And so there's throws like that. You're like, if you're off balance, you're going to miss throws. There's very few quarterbacks that can consistently hit off balance. Yeah, you can do it sometimes, but if it's 90% of your passes, it's going to be a problem. But they have to figure something out and figure it out quick. You have the long week right now. You're going Thursday to Monday.
Yeah, 10 days.
So you have 10 days right now. This is, if you're going to make a trade, if you're going to bring somebody in, if you're going to switch up offensive linemen, whatever you're going to do, if you're going to try and bring in a coach or do whatever, I mean, you have to do so. You cannot look at yourself and say, we'll figure this out, because you haven't. And it's getting worse.
No, it's getting worse. To me, it's regret. You're regressing in that department in terms of pass protection on the offensive line.
Yeah.
And
your car engine light came on like week 2. And now there's smoke coming out of it. And it's making all sorts of weird noises. And you're like, no. Trust me, I still can fix it. Take it to the shop.
Man.
Take it to the shop. Get a professional.
You keep trying to look at yourself like you're under the hood, but you don't know what the hell you're looking at, man. Take it to a professional. Take it to an expert. I'm with you. It's frustrating because, like I said, it's been my big, that has been my big gripe about the Texans all season long. It's like, man, they got to figure out pass protection.
Yeah.
Because they just, right now, it's just an inept, period.
I mean,
they
when
are an inept pass protecting unit.
If you say in a game, the Jets scored only 21 points, they give you a touchdown that the running back drops on the 1 yard line and then rolls out of the back of the end zone.
Oh, yeah.
They give you one. Free. Here's your free touchdown. They twice, when you are kicking the ball, rough your player and give you another set of downs. And you score 13 points in that effort. You actually lose 3 points when they roughed your center. You took points off the board because Fairbairn couldn't hit one from 20 feet or 20 yards instead of 50 yards.
Yep. That's
And I mean, technically, if you have that at the end of the game, you're 13-21. You can go for the touchdown at that point. But I mean, you're not scoring it clearly because your O-line is garbage. But
shoulda, woulda, coulda.
That was how many points the Jets left on the board and how many times they let you keep drives going.
They gave you the game in the first half. They were giving it to you. They didn't want they realized you were so incompetent in one specific area that it really did derail your entire game plan. So you let them just stick around in the first half, but they tried to give you the game in the first half. Even sometimes in the second half, but the second half they started gathering more and more momentum. But in the first half, they tried to give you that game. Bad Aaron Rodgers play. So had one of his worst performances. You're right, tons of self-inflicted wounds. That was also, like you said. How about this? You said it. They gave you 2 opportunities where basically they had a 4th and 22 or longer, basically. And you ended up converting it because of stupid penalties. Before tonight, there had been 11 times since 2000 that a team converted a 4th and 22 or longer with a penalty. Texas did it twice against the Jets. Only happened 11 times in the last 24 years, and the Jets gave it to you twice. And like you said, you couldn't do anything with it.
Took points off the board doing that.
Crazy, man.
And then I just tell you, next week, the CJ Micah Parsons friendship is over because Micah's going to hit him 15 times.
That might be his game back too. That's definitely going to be it.
I mean, he can come back 40%, beat whoever he's going against.
He's definitely not going to miss his own playing.
No, he's playing that game.
It's going to be too easy.
You tell me this guy's been talking trash all year on me, and I'm not going to go in there and rush him with this terrible offensive line on Monday Night Football.
And Texas got all these primetime games too, so their ineptitude is on display for the entire world to see.
This is the best the Texans have looked in years. Everyone's excited, and now
can't figure out.
And now you spent all this draft capital on offensive line, and I mean, at a certain point, you go, is it that you just missed on every single one of these guys? Did you somehow miss on all of it? Did you somehow miss? I mean, you clearly, Kenyon Green doesn't seem to be working. Titus Howard seemed to be doing better at one point. Juice Scruggs wasn't terrible in the game, but he's not doing enough that you need to see. Shaq Mason's okay on that right side. But Laramie Tunsil now. Like, what are these guys? What is it that you seem to have talent? Everybody agrees that there's talent there, yet there's nothing happening. And you still got the same O-line coach. You still got, it's not like it's a new O-line coach this year.
Yep. And Thompson was his most penalized offensive lineman in the league. So on top of him, I was not focused and having some fundamentals that have, I think, been lax here this season. He also is very undisciplined.
Yeah.
So not only is he not technically or fundamentally sound right now, but he's undisciplined. Talent has never been a concern with Larry Tunsil. Never been a concern. That's why you can get drafted as high as he did. With all of the baggage and all that kind of stuff, didn't matter. And he's still he was considered one of the best offensive linemen in the league. That may have been one of his worst performances of his career, actually, in that game. And Will McDonald put him in a blender a lot of the times when they were matched up against each other. So I'm with you. I don't know how drastic it gets. We'll hear from D'Amico Ryans later on. He claims it will get fixed, but I believe we've heard him say that before, that it will get fixed, and it has not gotten fixed. So it's time for us to start holding D'Amico a little bit more accountable too.
Yeah.
I would say coaches are problem solvers. You need to go solve the problem, even if it means, you as the, you got to hold your coaches accountable as well. And that may be something that D'Amico Ryans needs to do. We haven't seen him make a move like that, right? The coach move, he just got there. This may be the first, so he's got to consider.
I mean, this feels like the one where, and we don't know. I'm not in practice, so I can't tell you how these guys are going. But knowing how D'Amico Ryans is so player friendly, like D'Amico, you may need to bring in someone to crack the whip. Like you can't allow these guys to just be this undisciplined. And like everything about it feels like they're not getting the whip cracked on them in practice at all. That's
fair.
It feels like, and maybe they are, and maybe they don't respond well to that. Whatever it is, they're not responding well to what's happening.
No, especially on the O-line. I think there are other, there are some other issues, but there is nothing more glaring right now than the issues that the Texans have.
No, because everything else
discipline and the pass protection.
Everything else is pretty fixable. Yeah, if you say you add back in Azeez Al-Shaair and you add back in Jimmy Ward,
and then you're going to add back in Nico at one point. The passing game will look better. But Tank Dell looked great last night. Shout out to Tank Dell. We've been talking about him 6 for 126. He was fantastic.
And I as much as I then said Petrie was doing better, they went after him and exposed what we've seen, that he gets too up on himself at points and comes in and takes that step forward. And if you get him that step forward, then you can get right past him.
Yeah.
And he
takes a lot of chances, like he did undercutting that route for Gary Wilson. Now, that was a great catch, one-handed catch. But, if you take the upfield shoulder there, you just tackle the guy, just gain, you probably keep him to a field goal.
Yeah.
There.
So
I'm with you.
So things like that. But I think that may help a little bit if you bring back a Ward and an Al-Shaair to put him in a better position. That you bring in some of your vocal leaders on defense. You lost 2 vocal leaders on defense, so a young guy like Petrie maybe is a little bit more amped up and ready to go with no one telling him what to do. So I think that is a little bit more fixable. You can work on that, but that's more fixable. It's not a talent issue so much, but that offensive line, you just go, well, it's your whole season is 5 guys right now.
It seems that way. I mean, like I said, this is the one issue that seems systemic, that has big, that hasn't been affected by an injury, or we didn't see, Joe Mixon in the running game. That was a part of the identity issues they were going on with them with the running game, was because of the injury there. Wide receiver in the passing game, defense. I think a lot of that can be, solved with personnel, acquisitions or guys getting healthy. But the offensive line, I have not seen any solutions that have, in my opinion, improved the situation on the O-line. So that is right now the one thing that I think could derail the Texans' hopes and aspirations of being a championship contender, because they don't look. Remember I said, if you're a team that can contend for a championship, all right, that means, potentially threaten Kansas City, I guess. You'd win. You'd find a way to win this game. I said that yesterday. Yeah. You'll find a way to beat the Jets. They're the Jets. They got talent. They got Aaron Rodgers, but the Jets, they are disorganized. They're dysfunctional. They are not a very buttoned up organization or team on the field. And we saw that in the first half. Right, first half they were all over the place. They gave you that game, but also it shows you the Texans aren't either. Mm-hmm. They got some dysfunction. They're a little disorganized too. That's not right now. They don't like a team, to me, that's going to beat the Kansas City Chiefs, or even, threaten the Kansas City Chiefs. So they're right now they're below them. They're below the Ravens in that aspect too, in terms of teams in the AFC that could, the hierarchy rule of the AFC. Um, so I don't know what they're going to do going forward on the O line. I have no idea. Maybe you change the game plan. Do you change, Bobby Slowick's approach to play calling with the offensive line issues? Or when's the improvement going to happen? When they're going to, turn the corner on that offensive line? That's going to be the real question going forward. All right. I know we got the horn headlines. Let's hit those real quick. Then we'll continue to talk about this. We'll hear from Aaron Rodgers and from Garrett Wilson. We'll talk about the catch for the ages, that one-handed touchdown grab. The second one-handed touchdown grab for Garrett Wilson. We'll talk about that. But first, let's get the horn headlines. Let's get educated. Let's get updated. Let's get informed with all the top stories of the day with Patrick Davis and the horn headlines.
All right, your horn headlines brought to you by Top Gun Rentals and Lawn Equipment. In the NBA, the Spurs got a win over the Jazz 106-88 last night, with Victor Wembanyama getting his second career 5x5 with 25 points, 9 rebounds, 7 assists, 5 steals, and 5 blocks. And the Rockets took down the Mavs 108-102, led by Jalen Green with 23 points. Kyrie Irving and Luka Doncic combined for 57 points in the losing effort. In college football, Texas gets the week off while number 18 Pitt faces number 20 SMU in an ACC matchup. Number 5 Miami goes against a 6-win Duke team. Number 1 Oregon travels to Michigan. Number 2 Georgia takes on Florida. Number 10 Texas A&M looks to remain unbeaten in SEC play against South Carolina. And number 3 Penn State tries to beat number 4 Ohio State for the first time since 2016. And in the NFL, the Texans took a loss to the Jets 21-13 on Thursday Night Football, with C.J. Stroud being sacked 8 times in the game. This Sunday, the Cowboys head to Atlanta to take on the Falcons, while the late window is headlined by the Lions versus the Packers. And on Sunday Night Football, the Colts take on the Vikings. And that is your Horn Headlines.
All right, thank you, Patrick, for the horn headlines. We'll get to some more discussion about the Texans and their loss to the Jets. But we got to go behind the burnt orange curtain next segment. We know the Longhorns are on a bye week, but still, I've been doing some research about the Longhorns in SEC play. We'll hit some of those nuggets and some of those notes, talk some Texas football on the other side. So come back with us right here on the Rodcast featuring Patrick Davis. I'm lifetime Longhorn Rod Davis coming back on the horn. All right, welcome back to the Rodcast. Time to get into some Texas football conversation. I've been doing some research during the bye week, just looking at different stats and different trends going on with the Texas team right now. Just want to share some of them with you. I think I know why um, Quinn or quarterbacks period Arch be in that conversation too. Why they like Matthew Golden and Gunnar Helm so much. Been doing some research on how effective Gunnar Helm and Matthew Golden have been situationally, and this is actually in SEC play. So this is obviously since Texas started SEC play, Mississippi State, Georgia in there too, Vanderbilt thrown in there, Oklahoma in there, those games. And if you look at catch rate on best catch rate on contested targets right now in SEC play, shout out to StatCat for these little nuggets. If you look at the best catch rate on contested targets, Matthew Golden has the best catch rate on contested targets. And you think about it, he had a really nice contested catch versus Vanderbilt. I believe it was a one-handed catch on the on like the goal line, right? It was a 2-yard touchdown or a 3-yard touchdown he had. He's had a few of those when you start thinking about it this season. If you're a quarterback, I mean, that's your best friend, a guy that you can throw it up to and he'll make the contested catch. We'll hear from Aaron Rodgers later. He decided that's what he did with Garrett Wilson. He's like, honestly, I knew he was going to be one-on-one. I was like, throwing it up to my guy, period. And honestly, that I think for quarterbacks, sometimes it's that simple. It's like, all right, if that safety doesn't help over the top of that corner and he's one-on-one, I don't even really need to know if he's got good position or not. I know he's supposed to be. I'm gonna throw it where he's supposed to be, and I'm gonna just pray he makes a play because he doesn't practice all the time. And that's what tells me that in practice, Garrett Wilson is doing stuff like that all the time. Because otherwise, you wouldn't trust him to do it in the game like that, unless you're like, no, I'm just throwing it up. He literally said, I just threw it up to my gut. I'm just throwing it up to G. He said before the play, after his pre-snap reading diagnosis, he's like, I'm just throwing it up to G. I'll throw it up to him. And I'm not saying that's Matthew Golden, but I do think there is a certain trust level you develop with a receiver when they make contested catches like that and they make miraculous catches like that. Matthew Golden. That's why in the end, think about in the red zone. Who's the red zone guy for Quinn? Matthew Golden. Right, that's kind of his red zone guy. He seems to look for Matthew Golden in the red zone a little bit, but that's one of the reasons. But he is actually leading the SEC in catch rate on contested targets. 66%. And the next closest is at 50%. It's actually Armstrong from Arkansas, who's going to be a problem. We'll talk about him in a couple of weeks. But I think that's why he likes Matthew Golden. Gunnar Helm, Matt, you can't say enough about Gunnar Helm. How about this? If you're looking at explosive percentage, like explosive plays, like the percentage of explosive plays, right now, Gunnar Helm is second in the SEC in the percentage of his catches that are explosive plays. Basically, a third of Gunnar Helm's catches are explosive plays. And it makes sense when you start thinking about it. Like, yeah, he does have a lot of them. They got him with 11 explosive receptions. Crazy. He does. I mean, that's huge benefit there. He's ahead of his explosive catch rate is higher than Matthew Golden, DeAndre Moore. They're at 25 and 26%. But I mean, Gunnar Helm is like, it's just crazy to imagine him. But a lot of that is yak yards too. I mean, that's the thing about it. You think it's like, no, he's just down the field running seam routes. No, I mean, this yak. He's a yak daddy. He's making guys miss. Maybe he's hurdling over guys. He's getting highlight plays. There was something surprising when I saw him at the top of that list. Also with Gunnar Helm, if you go look at the best targets, if you will, or down the field, like basically pass catchers under pressure. You go look at the best pass catchers under pressure. Gunnar Helm's like at the top of that list too. In the SEC play, it's clear that when Quinn Ewers is under pressure, which may be happening a little too often, that Quinn Ewers is looking for Gunnar Helm. That's what Gunnar Helm is one of the guys he's looking out for when he's under pressure. He's second right now in the SEC in success rate. I explained this, but it's basically getting 50% of the yards you needed for a first down for on first. So on first down, if you get at least 50% of the yards needed to gain, that's a successful play. Second down, it's 75%, and on third, fourth down, it's 100%. That's essentially the gist of it. That's the basics of how success rate works on offense and on defense. And Gunnar Helms, success rate on targets while his quarterback is under pressure. So basically, pass catchers on pressured attempts, he's second, 62% success rate on pressured attempts. Basically, targets on pressured attempts. That's pretty damn good. So one thing you like about Gunnar Helm, it's surprisingly explosive. And like I say, it's not all just down the field. We're talking about yak yards. And when Quinn is under pressure, and he seems to, whether it be by design with a play, like maybe Sark's doing it. Sark is scheming him open, delayed releases, putting him in the intermediate area of the field, never running him too deep, because we know Quinn doesn't, either doesn't have the time or doesn't look too deep, but always keeping him somewhere near where he can be a check down. But it's where he's got room to run too. Like he always ends up getting, like I said, these yak yards and room to run. So that was interesting too, to find out that when under pressure, Gunnar Helms is a guy that really ends up with Quinn getting a lot of the looks when he's scrambling, moving around. And the SEC average, I think, is around 35%. Like I said, Gunnar Helm he's at 62%. He's damn near, all right, he's getting damn near ready to double that number in terms of success rate for pass catchers on pressured attempts. So love that about Gunnar Helm's game too. Something I think we all come to appreciate. Let's talk about Quinn a little bit and some of the numbers that we found about Quinn. And, people have been obsessed about the ADOT. The average depth of target, finding out it was 5.9 yards for Quinn, and that is the lowest, of course, in his career since he's been at Texas. His ADOT actually in SEC play is lower than 5.9, which I think was 79 out of 79 quarterbacks. It's actually 5.7, 5.75. His average. He's last in the SEC in ADOT. Just to give you, I know Longhorn fans, where's Arch Manning? Arch Manning's ADOT in SEC play, 10.3. To the point, Longhorn fans, they're like, we want to, hey, Chicks did the long ball and so does Arch. Well, yeah. And Arch would be, if it very small sample size. All right. So I'm not just, obviously I'm not saying Arch needs to start anything like that. I'm just giving you the comparison. He would be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9th in ADOT in the SEC. This is among all the quarterbacks that have started too. But among all the quarterbacks that have started, Quinn Ewers is last in the SEC at ADOT. But this is a yak offense. When you go look at highest percent of the yards coming after the catch, so we're looking at air yards here, like the amount of passing yards that are through the air. All right, so not yak yards, not yards after the catch, but this is how what percentage of your total passing yards come through the air. Quinn has the lowest percentage of air yards of his total passing yards at 30. It's his SEC play, by the way, 30%. Michael Hawkins of Oklahoma, remember that dude? Remember how they struggled with the vertical passing game? He's second lowest amount of his total yards coming in the air is at 45%. So this is a yak offense now, guys. It is yak all day, every day. I know y'all don't like it. The Longhorn fans don't really like it. And I'm not sure Sark likes it. From his snarky remarks and response at his last meeting, I'm not sure Sark likes it either. And I think he's not blaming Quinn. He's blaming the defenses. We'll have to play that cut again. He's blaming the defenses. He's telling, hey, man, the defenses, I don't know why the hell they're playing so deep. I don't know why they're dropping 2, 3 safeties back. We average 9% of our passes go 20 yards or more down the field. So not even 10%. So 90+% of this damn offense is short to intermediate throws. Why the hell are they way back, those safeties way back there? All right. My quarterback is averaging in SEC play 5.7 yards average depth of target. Why the hell are these safeties 15 yards deep? So I think he's frustrated. He's like, guys, I'm suckering you in. Come. I'm telling you, just please come down a little bit closer and try to cheat on some of these screens and some of these detached screens and checkdowns. They won't do it because they know Sark is we always know it too. He wants that deep ball. He does. He's itching for it. I want that deep ball, baby. All right. He wants it so bad. He does. And I think there's a saying that, in poker, don't play the hand. Sometimes you need to play the man. The hand don't matter. The man matters. He's got tendencies. He's got things that you know what I mean that drive him. And if you figure that out, you can really coach well against him. And for Sark, you know he wants that deep ball. He does. He talks about exciting the crowd with big plays. He wants to get the crowd on their feet. That like it fuels him. It feeds his football spirit. And when he can't do that, when he's just checking it down, trust me, he's upset about it too. It hurts his ego a little bit. And I think the defensive coordinators, that's why the last 3 weeks he's been going up against defensive coordinators, right? The chess match within the game. They know, oh, he wants to throw that deep ball. We ain't gonna give it to you. We'll make you march down the field, make it boring and monotonous for you, and you're just gonna be checking down. Your creativity and innovation is only gonna go so far here. Because he's mostly gonna be checking it down. Sark doesn't want to do that either, guys. He wants to throw the deep ball, but football and life are constant struggles deciding between what you want to be and what you need to be. Now, what he wants to be is a team that can chunk it deep and then pound and play power football and play bully ball and then chunk it deep. That's what he would love to be. He ain't that. He would like to supplement the offense with the short and intermediate game, but the identity be we can play bully ball and we can chunk it deep. That's what he would want. Helps him get recruits. That's how you recruit receivers. You don't recruit receivers by throwing screens. They don't always want to do that. You recruit receivers by some of those highlight spectacular plays, and he wants to recruit receivers and he wants to recruit the best quarterbacks. And you got to do that by showcasing your beautiful, offense. All right. And how amazing it is, how brilliant it is. So he wants to do it too. I just think right now he's not in a position to because defensive coordinators are taking that away. But anyway, there you go. So that's Quinn. It lines, it tracks with your eye test that he's not throwing the football downfield. How he handles pressure is also something that's concerning. If you look at success rate under pressure, successful quarterbacks under pressure, Quinn, this is an SEC play. Quinn, 22.7% success rate under pressure. That is the fourth worst in the SEC. Success rate under pressure. Y'all not gonna like this. Well, some of y'all will. The highest in the SEC, Arch Manning. According to Stack, had 41% success rate under pressure. Very small sample size, and not up against the defenses that Quinn had to face. And just keep all that in mind. I'm just throwing it out there because I'm a numbers guy.
No, what's Matthew Golden's ADOT?
Oh, I got to go look at that.
I think he's got 2 attempts, right?
Yeah, that's a good point. I don't know. It's a good point. You just said those 2 attempts, so it's probably like 30, 40 yards or something like that. Average depth of target. Okay, one more nugget here. 10-plus yard throws. The least accurate passers on downfield throws of at least 10 yards. Y'all not going to like this. Quinn, if you're looking at accuracy percentage, 34% accuracy percentage on 10-plus yard throws. That is the least accurate, actually, of the quarterbacks in the SEC. So down the field throws, something that he struggled with. They didn't throw the football downfield a lot. They only had 9 throws of 10-plus yards in that game versus Vanderbilt. Oh, yes, and I know you're going to know where Arch is. Arch is, he's much better. He's at 51% accuracy percentage on 10-plus yard throws. So, all right, there you go. Some of the news, the nuggets that I found doing some research about Texas during the bye week. We'll share some more of those coming up in a couple of hours when we go behind the burn on curtain again. But coming up next, we got what the facts, what the stats. Oh, no, we don't. We have topic for the Big Fat Poll today. I'm already speeding up the show. We got the topic for the Big Fat Poll today, along with the musically themed day of the week is right here on the Rodcast featuring Patrick Davis. I'm lifetime Longhorn Rod Babers coming back on the horn.
Back on the Rodcast here on a Friday morning. That means it's a 512 Friday where we play local music. You can go check out Around Town this weekend. And this is Brody Lane. They are playing Saturday at the Saxon Pub. Some new Brody Lane there for you. A song called Ghosts.
Nice. I like that.
There we go. Let's get to the big fat poll of the day. Text line's open 512-447-3776. And we'll get this posted up on X at the Horn ATX.
Patrick's big fat poll of the day on the Horn.
I was going to ask you guys what's the go-to Halloween scary movie for a point, but then I realized I could just watch the Texans game again. Scariest thing you're going to watch on a Halloween night. Ooh, spooky. Just watch the O-line play. Oh, it's so scary. But let's get to the actual big fat poll today. If you guys are not aware, Texas basketball tips off Monday night against Ohio State, but Texas basketball coming back on Monday. So I'll get some stuff together for Monday that we can talk a little bit more Texas basketball, get you ready for the season. But the poll of the day, let's get into what people are thinking of this team this year. College basketball as a whole is a weirder game or a weirder off-season game than it's ever been, that you're basically every season resetting a lot of your players. There's always been a piece of it where, you reset your stars and you would have one and dones. Those have been for a while, but now with the transfer portal, it is constant roster change that guys who aren't playing, you can't play a 12-man rotation, but you need to have 12 guys on your roster. And so there's going to be players that don't necessarily make that rotation, that 8-man, 9-man rotation. Those guys are normally going to transfer out, so you're going to have to replace them. Guys are going to go to the pros. Guys are going to move on. But guys like Dylan DeSue are now moved off. Brock Cunningham is now not the program, which seems like he was there for quite a while. So a lot of the players that you were familiar with have moved on. A couple of familiar names, but a lot of new names, including Trey Johnson, who is the star phenom, who everything that we've heard from the practices and scrimmages, that dude is the real deal. Coming in, if he can have one of those big seasons, he can help Texas achieve their goals. But the poll of the day, what is your minimum expectation for Texas basketball this season? So where is it where if they achieve this, say, no, it is a good season. This is not where our goal is, our full goal. Full goal is national championship, win the SEC national championship, of course. That's the goal. But what's your minimum goal? Where if they achieve this, will you be okay with it? You're not going to be clamoring every day on the text line to fire Rodney Terry because Terry's the worst coach you ever heard. I know that there's plenty of people that are already that think it's crazy still the coach. But what is your minimum expectation? That if this happens, you'll be okay. You'll trust this program and where they're going. I'll give you a couple options. Win the SEC. You say win the SEC, you're clearly in the tournament, you're making a run, but you won the SEC, you handled your conference play, and then we'll get to the tournament. We'll worry about that. Just making the tournament, you say it's Texas, say it's a new team this year. They just need to make it to the tournament. Is it a Sweet 16? Do you want to see them make it to the second weekend? Or is this an Elite Eight? Do you say, I don't care, the rules are, this has got to be an Elite Eight team. I'm not going to give you Final Four. If you say it's Final Four or bust for this Texas team, there's like maybe Duke can say that. Maybe like UConn and Duke are the two teams in Maine. If you're a Kansas, maybe you can say like there's certain kind of blue blood programs that can say that Texas has made a Final Four in their history or in their last, in the time when the NCAA tournament was big in the last 25 years. So we don't get to say that Final Four or bust. That is unrealistic expectations to put on a coach and a team because you don't like him. That is why you put that on there because you wouldn't if there was other certain coaches. So
I'm with you on that.
So I'll say Elite Eight though. Elite Eight is still really that's lofty expectations. If that's your minimum expectation is Elite Eight to be one of the 8 best teams in the country at the end of the season, not to get a bad matchup, not get anything else. That's fine, but that's as good as I'll give you. But win the SEC, make the tournament, Sweet 16, Elite Eight. What is your minimum expectation? Not your full not winning the national title. That's where we're going. That's the goal. But your minimum expectation.
I say you got to win a game in the tournament, right?
So yeah, so you have to win. I mean, I think Sweet 16 is where you want to be. I think if your minimum expectation is win one game in the tournament, which Texas has done for the first time in a row last several years. That's
what I'm
not a
saying.
common
To
thing.
me, that should be now the minimum. Like, no, you got to win a game in a tournament because making a tournament, I think we're past that. It's a disappointment you don't make the tournament. That's right. That was a disappointment. So we're past that point. Not a blue blood yet. So I'm with you. So you're not saying national champ. Like that's how Texas football is. Like, hey, Texas baseball is like, hey, well, if we ain't competing for a national title, honestly, guys, sorry. The standard is the standard. It's a bust of a season.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? That mean it was a bad season, but our ultimate goal is championships. If we weren't competing for one at least in that season, the standard is the standard. For Texas basketball, I'm with you. That's not the standard. So the standard to me, the new standard is you're a tournament team. You make the tournament. In the NIL world that we live in now, and the transfer portal world we live in now, Texas should be a tournament team every damn year. That's
they should be. Minimum. I agree 100%.
And I think the new minimum is you got to win a game. That's you said the bare minimum, right? You said this is the minimum expectations. Win a game.
All right.
And I know that's not one of them.
I know, but we should make the tournament. I'll change. You know what? I'll change. Make the tournament to win one game in the tournament because you're right. That's.
Right,
because win the SEC is make the tournament too. So make the tournament. We'll say you got to make the tournament. We get that.
Yeah. So maybe like if you want to win the SEC, that's also to me that's a different kind of goal too. Like I want to win the SEC, and then like you said, you automatically in the tournament win a game. I think to me, winning a game is my bare minimum. You got to win a game.
Okay, yeah, I'll put that one in there
to say it's a success, right? Because all the haters that you're talking about, it's a lot of them against Coach Terry, and that's all the fuel they need. If you don't win a game in the tournament, you got to win.
And that's
they would need.
Exactly.
Oh, he's not good enough to win the tournament. He's not good enough to win the big dance. He's a regular season guy. He can't win the tournament, man. He can't win. It wasn't that. Why would you bring on a guy who can't win the postseason, man? So you got to win a game postseason. Got to.
No, I agree. I'm with you on that. I think that this is a team that you'd really like to see get to a Sweet 16 to feel good. I think if you win one game, I'm with you. That is the minimum expectation now for Texas basketball. Mm-hmm. And of course, we'll know more. Again, watching college basketball is weird now because I can't tell you what this team's going to do. We'll talk more about on Monday of what they could do and what the pieces are. But until I see them play together, I don't know what their strengths and weaknesses really are going to be until I see them on the court. I've heard good things, but you normally hear good things before a season.
Of course.
So we'll see them against Ohio State on Monday night. Big game in Vegas, I believe, is where that game is.
Ooh. So college basketball games in Vegas.
Yeah, it's because Monday night is basically the kickoff for everybody. So tons and tons of basketball on Monday. But I'll get a little bit more ready for you and give you some more prep on what to expect. But we won't know. Then Tuesday, we'll at least be able to see a game because these guys haven't played together in a regular season game yet. So
on paper, it all looks, man, it's going to go. This guy fits here. This guy's going to have this role. This guy has this role. And it's like, you see, like, that guy's he's not working out in that role. This guy doesn't really fit here. Yeah. You got to see how it all works. And then that's up to Coach Terry after that. Take those pieces and make them fit.
Yes.
Or, what I mean? And do his best to make sure that everybody's kind of compatible with his blueprint. And do we know what Rodney Terry basketball is? I'm trying to like what the identity of Rodney Terry basketball is. Yeah.
The identity of it.
What his vision is. His vision, I guess, because he probably
his vision. Because his vision isn't quite as defensively focused as Chris Beard's was, so it is a bit more of an offensive. Wants to go a little bit quicker. They just slowed down, and I think it changes. I don't think he has necessarily had one yet. That is, I think he's morphed kind of to his players.
Okay,
and we saw that with Max Asmus last year. That Max Asmus held the ball a lot because that's how Max Asmus played. I think that this year we'll see it kind of revolve around Trey Johnson more. And so what his identity is will shift somewhat of the identity of the team. But I'm with you. They do not have a set, we are this kind of team, which can be a benefit and it can be a detriment.
No, I agree. There's some coaches are kind of, I always say there are system coaches and formula coaches. System coaches, I carry this system with me everywhere I go. I run this system. I recruit to this system. Everybody knows what my system is. This is my calling card. And then there are formula coaches. They just kind of recruit talent and they go, all right, I'm going to come up with a new formula pretty much every year based on the talent I have. And it's almost like some coaches cook, like some people cook from scratch. And some people, use the Duncan Hines or the Betty Crocker or whatever it is. And to me, those are your system coaches. They come in with already kind of the system already in place, or at least they have the vision for the system. And then you just got to add eggs, add a little milk, add a little bit of oil, vegetable oil, and then put the thing in the oven, and boom, you'll know exactly what it's going to look like from year to year. At least you'll have a basic idea of it. But formula coaches, which Coach Terry might be, Mac Brown was a formula coach.
Yeah.
Mac Brown's teams look different. All of his runs look different. When I was there, it was a different team than when VY took over. VY's teams look very different than Colts teams. It wasn't always the same. He was a formula guy. Sark's a system guy. Sark's got his system. He runs his offensive system.
Yep.
He recruits to that system. Sark's a system guy. It can work both ways. I'm not saying one way is better than the other, but it seems like Rodney Terry right now seems like a formula guy.
Yes.
That, hey, I'll change my formula every year. Just I'll recruit the talent, and then I'll figure out the formula once I get the talent there.
Yes.
Instead of recruiting the talent specifically to fit into a system, which, like I said, I'm fine with that. All right. Good stuff there. We come back. That's the topic for the big fat poll today. Yeah. Texas basketball, man, that's crazy. Feels like it's too soon for Texas basketball.
I know it does.
Right. I don't know why it feels early. It's not early. But
I know why, early. Because it's still 90 degrees outside.
Yeah. That's kind of because Halloween was kind of weird. It's like, man, it's hot out. Yeah, it's hot outside. It's like, yeah, that's right now. It's supposed to be a little cooler. It's supposed to feel more like fall during Halloween. Kids were outside sweating in the costumes because usually costumes are kind of meant for the fall, meant for it to be cool outside. So some of them have long sleeves and they're very elaborate. Now kids out there sweating in them costumes last night, man, in Texas. So yeah, hopefully fall is on the horizon, coming soon. I know it's here officially, but it just don't feel like it yet. All right, we'll make it feel like fall because we're talking football on the other side, talking Cowboys and Atlanta Falcons. They got a matchup coming this weekend. We'll dive into that. We'll get back to talking about the Texans and their loss to the Jets, Jets, who were a mess, but got off their losing snide, and now they're right now celebrating a win over the Texans. We'll talk about that too. All that and more right here on the Rodcast, featuring Patrick Davis. I'm Lifetime Longhorn. Rod Davis coming back on the horn. All right, welcome back to the Rodcast. It is a Freak Flag Feel Good Fake It Till You Make It. Ric Flair, woo! 512 Football Friday edition of the Rodcast. And that 512 part means that my co-host, the Idillionaire Patrick Davis, plays jams from local bands and artists, very talented human beings that you have a chance to catch live right here in the ATX. Who we jamming right now, Patrick?
This is Nolan Potter's Nightmare Band, and they are playing Saturday at Chess Club.
The Nightmare Band. See, yeah, always curious about the origins of these band names. But we appreciate Patrick hooking us up there for 512 Friday. He also hooks us up with the topic for the big fat poll of the day. We'll get that posted on X at the Horn ATX. Patrick, what is the topic for the big fat poll of the day?
Top for the big fat poll of the day. What is your minimum expectation for Texas basketball this season? We gave you win the SEC, win a game in the tourney, Sweet 16, Elite 8.
I like that. That's a nice healthy range.
Yeah.
That's a nice healthy. I'm with you. If you're saying Final Four, then those are unrealistic expectations. You're saying like that's your minimum.
Minimum. I think that's perfectly fine expectations. I think for your minimum that if they don't reach the Final Four, this team is underachieved.
Yes,
I think
the minimum the minimum. Yes. Yeah, I agree. I'm with you on that. That's why I went with win a game in the tournament.
Yeah, I mean, now we can go
perfectly realistic.
Yeah, now if we get into mid-December and this team's looking really good, then you can change those expectations. You have a December 8th game maybe against UConn. It's early December. You play against UConn. That is, of course, a huge matchup. That's your two-time defending national champions in UConn that will be coming to Texas. So that is a huge game that you'll see earlier on. What you do, I mean, you're going to see what you do against Ohio State. You're playing against, this is not a ranked Ohio State team, but they are a Power 4 team. So you get to go up against somebody that is not, you're going to play a lot of easier teams early on where you can kind of see what this team is, set your identity a bit more, find out who you are as a team. But at the end of the day, you should win all of these games. The ones that the Ohio State game is a better test of, is this a team that you feel, okay, this is a team that can compete, that doesn't have glaring holes, which I think there's at least one that I'll worry about early on, but we'll see where you go. We'll get more into that on Monday too.
Okay, yeah. You don't want to start off negatively discussing the teams. Like, no, I haven't seen them yet. I'm not going to talk about what I think glaring issues on Monday
about what the issues could be. And we'll do it on Monday. I don't want to talk too much basketball on a Friday. We'll get more into it on Monday.
I got you.
The game is until Monday night, so we'll get more into it on Monday. I'll put some stuff together for a preview for everybody, so we'll be more prepared for Monday night.
Okay, there you go. All right. I was gonna say, we do that in Texas football all the time. We start talking about what's wrong with the team before we even see the team. You know what's wrong with this team?
Oh no, believe me. We have our text sign is now. I've gotten the text sign, and I've started to get this in real life too. Is crap? Quinn's coming back for another year. What are we gonna do? I'm like, I don't think Quinn's coming back for another year.
Guys, Quinn ain't coming back for another year.
No, but this is the worry. This is the Arch Manning group that is now thinking Quinn is holding Arch back. And he's going to continue to hold. Quinn is no longer a actual person. He's now an obstacle in the path to Arch Manning's greatness.
Yeah. No, I
do not believe that he'll be coming back. I think that is a worry that you're projecting that you don't need to worry about right now.
I don't think he's coming back. Now, will he get drafted as high as he initially thought, or that the preseason kind of projections had? I'm not sure about that. I'm not sure he's going to get. I do think they overdraft quarterbacks. So as long as you're not totally doesn't totally that downward spiral this season, I do think he still will be a first round quarterback. I think somebody will overdraft, which they always do for quarterbacks. But I don't know if he's going to be he had a chance at one point after that Michigan game. They were talking about him being the first quarterback taken. Like that.
Yes,
that was a point of discussion. That is no longer, I think, a topic of discussion.
No, he. I don't know if Carson Beck is in
that. I think Shadur Sanders is now kind of him and maybe Cam Ward, but I think Shadur has kind of cemented himself as being the first quarterback that's going to be taken. Yeah. Just because Carson Beck and Quinn have not had stellar campaigns. No, I haven't watched Shadur, so I don't know if he's killing it, but he can't be as bad as Carson Beck and hasn't had as much inconsistency as Quinn has had.
No, I think you're at this point where unless Quinn really turns it on in this phase 3 and they light it up and the defense is playing differently and they're able to go and then has a run and
Oh,
you win a national
man.
championship,
Yep,
all
300-yard games. He just
all
4
that,
touchdowns.
then yes, you can get right back in it because there is no clear number one right now.
No, not really. I think out of a lack of options, I think Shadur Sanders is going to end up being the guy, the top quarterback taken. And that, if you're the top quarterback taken, you have a chance to be number one overall. But so like I said, I think listen, I don't think Quinn's coming back. I do think ultimately he leaves no matter what the situation is after this year. The question for Quinn is this going to be the best version of Quinn we see for the rest of the year? Or are we going to just see him improve? Because the Vandy game was an improvement on Georgia and Oklahoma. The hope is that after another bye week, because a lot of us believe this is injury related, that we get more improvement, then he looks a little bit better. He was pretty, efficient in the Vanderbilt game. At one point he was 17 or 17. He just didn't throw the football downfield. He just didn't throw it downfield. No. And guys, the truth is, and he had, I think, 9 passes past 10 yards. And yes, his average depth of target is, one of the lowest in the Power 4, if not the lowest in the Power 4. But they won't face really a team that can make them pay for that. In my opinion, the Aggies could do it. The Aggies can make them pay for it. And then once they get to the postseason, those teams, right, that they play SEC title game, college football playoff, they'll make them pay for it. The truth is, I don't think Arkansas, I don't think Kentucky. Arkansas will be a tough out, though. Arkansas is not going to be an easy out. We'll talk about that. Going on the road to Arkansas, that's going to be a tough game. You just got to try to survive. Survive and advance kind of game. But Kentucky and Florida, they don't have the weapons. They don't have the personnel to make you pay for right now your deficiencies on offense. They can't do it. But I would say A&M can. And maybe Arkansas can do it too. But I still think Texas is just overall a better team than Arkansas. The question is, are you a better team than A&M?
Yeah, it'll be interesting to watch Ole Miss at Arkansas this week.
Yes, agreed.
And see if Arkansas beats Ole Miss there in Arkansas. You get a little bit more. All right, this team is not playing around.
Yeah, and I think Jaquindon Jackson, the running back for them, I think he is doubtful for that game. But they got another running back behind him who's a monster too, a beast. We'll preview those games actually coming up. But I'm with you. That's a big game. Just looking at one of Texas' upcoming opponents to see how for real Arkansas is. Yeah, Arkansas is a physical team, so they'll probably counter Ole Miss really well because Ole Miss is not physical. At least not their offense is not very physical. Their defensive front's really good too. So that is something that they'll be able, I think, to counter the dual threat ability of Taylor Green with for Arkansas because he's a really dynamic player at the quarterback position. But anyway, my point is Texas offense, the way it is right now, yes, it has limitations, but I don't think it'll come back to haunt them until potentially the very end of the season. And I think that's what some Longhorn fans are looking at.
Oh, yeah.
In their paranoia. They're like, but what about when we play Georgia again? What about when we play A&M at the end of the season? What about when we play in the SEC title game? And everybody knows that Quinn's not going to throw the football downfield and your passing game is limited. And guys, so is your run game. Your run game is also limited.
Yeah. No, I think there's definitely things you can look at that this team's not perfect. But, I don't think necessarily putting an Arch Manning fixes all of those problems off the key.
I'm not on that bandwagon.
No,
I am not.
I'm not in the let's put him in the hardest games where it's going to be really tough.
Yep. And I also think that the offense has some issues that they have to address.
Yeah.
There's no doubt about it. I've given you the numbers. The last 3 games, the Longhorns have gone from in their yards per play. They were on the season 6.3 yards per play. That has you in the top 20. That's really good. But in the last 3 weeks, that number drops to 4.8, and you're 104th. And rushing yards per game, you were average. 158. That's average. Nothing wrong with that. But in the last 3 games, you dropped to 103. That's 111th. Yards per rush, you were 4.5. You were 60th. Last 3 weeks, you're 103rd. You're at 3.4. Yards per attempt, top 20 on the season, which is really good. But in the last 3 games, you're 103rd in yards per attempt. Yards per completion, you were 53rd in yards per completion. That's just average. Last 3 games, you're at 126th in yards per completion. So I'll admit, last 3 games, if this continues, it's unsustainable. You're going to take an L. You may take more than one. And if you take a 10-2, Texas is still sexy enough. It will get in the playoff, no problem, whether they're in the SEC title game or not. 3 losses, you're not going to make it into the playoff. So they can only afford one more loss. And if they continue to regress like this on offense, it's possible, that they could take more than one more loss on the schedule. But your defense has saved you and will continue to save you. But the offense needs to do their part. Because right now, the defense, a third of the points that the defense has given up has come after an offensive turnover. A third. They're second in the country in scoring defense, and a third of the points they've given up have come right after an offensive turnover. Usually it's a short field.
Yeah. No, I think that, that's a lot what Sark and his coaching staff can work on during the bye week is teams are not playing us the way we thought they would. So how do we adjust to that and create a more effective, high-powered offense when they're just sitting back on everything? Like when they understand that we don't have the running game to really force their hand in this, to make them have to come they'll let us throw underneath because they know there's 3 things that can happen when you throw a football and 2 of them are bad. And so they're fine with us throwing 45 underneath passes a game.
Yeah, seems that way.
So I think you have to, but that's, you get a bye week to kind of work on that a little bit. And then, we'll see Georgia play Florida this weekend. And, Florida hasn't been good, but they haven't been the worst team in football either. They have talent there. So, see how that game plans out. And then if Carson Beck has a really good game, go, okay, what did Carson Beck do? What did that Georgia team do?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. That'll be interesting to see how tough Florida plays Georgia, and Georgia is locked in like they were when they played Texas, because they had not been locked in like that.
Not at all.
And they flipped the switch on Texas. And I wonder if that was just because it was such a big game and they play Florida, and then you'll see them again like they had against Mississippi State, where they're not totally locked in. They know they're going to win. It's competitive, but Georgia they basically have control of the game the entire game, but you don't see them stump their foot on the throat like they did against Texas.
They play like it's a 2:30 game, not a 6 o'clock, 7 o'clock game. And
but that's championship teams do that. And we talked about that. They have the ability to flip the switch, and Georgia is there now. Texas doesn't have that ability because they don't have the championship DNA and the pedigree yet, but that's what they're working on this season. All right, there you go. Texas football conversation. And as always, seems like we're always getting back to that conversation. Let's hit the horn headlines, and then we start talking about the Cowboys game here. The Cowboys playing the Atlanta Falcons. We'll also get back to the game last night. Texans losing to the Jets, Jets. But first, let's get updated. Let's get educated. Let's get informed with all the top stories of the day with Patrick Davis and the Horn Headlines.
All right, your Horn Headlines brought to you by Top Gun Rentals and Lawn Equipment. In the NBA, the Spurs got a win over the Jazz, 106-88 last night, with Victor Wembanyama getting his second career 5x5 with 25 points, 9 rebounds, 7 assists, 5 steals, and 5 blocks. And the Rockets took down the Mavs 108-102, led by Jalen Green with 23 points. Kyrie Irving and Luka Doncic combined for 57 points in the losing effort. In college football, Texas gets a week off while number 18 Pitt faces number 20 SMU in an ACC matchup. Number 5 Miami goes against a 6-win Duke team. Number 1 Oregon travels to Michigan. Number 2 Georgia takes on Florida. Number 10 Texas A&M looks to remain unbeaten in SEC play against South Carolina. And number 3 Penn State tries to beat number 4 Ohio State for the first time since 2016. And in the NFL, the Texans took a loss to the Jets 21-13 on Thursday Night Football, with C.J. Stroud being sacked 8 times in the game. This Sunday, the Cowboys head to Atlanta to take on the Falcons, while the late window is headlined by the Lions versus the Packers. And on Sunday Night Football, the Colts take on the Vikings. And that is your Horn Headlines.
Ooh, Colts taking on the Vikings in Sunday Night Football. I guess it's intriguing because you have the Joe Flacco story, Anthony Richardson being benched. I guess that is.
They're a 500 team with a abysmal quarterback play from Anthony Richardson.
No. I thought Shane Steichen is kind of proving he's a pretty good coach.
Yeah.
Because you're supposed to lose. When your quarterback's not completing 50% of your passes, you're supposed to lose those games. How the hell are you winning games with your quarterback? And with the Texans, they almost beat the Texans. twice with a quarterback completing less than 50% of his passes. So I'm with you. I was actually impressed by by Shane Steichen, and maybe that's what this is about. I'm trying to show, these show the ownership, like, hey, no, I'm the guy. I am the guy. He may not be the guy. The quarterback may not be the guy, but I'm the guy. I'm a hell of a coach. I can coach, and I think maybe there is some of that in this. That hey, let me show you guys that if you just give me some competent quarterback play, let me go win a couple of games.
Yeah, let me go If I go beat the Vikings on Sunday Night Football with Joe Flacco, then all of a sudden you're looking and go, I told you.
Yes,
I got everything set up.
Yeah.
We beat this 5-2 team that everyone's up on and thinks that they're going to be that they this is one of the best teams in football, and we game planned them. Made Brian Flores look
think
silly.
That's part of it too. Yeah, I think that's for Shane Steichen. For him, I think it's a point of pride, but also to show the ownership that when you move on from this young quarterback, don't move on from me. Let me, be a part of the reinvention or whatever.
By the way, I think one of our listeners sent us on X the Brian Flores talking about Anthony Richardson pulling himself out of the game.
Oh yeah, I think there might be. Yeah,
and he said, and it's a really funny thing to listen to, knowing his relationship with Tua.
Oh, that's true.
And I was I'm guessing he's trying to work on himself. I'm guessing he's trying to work on himself or something. But when he comes out and he goes, man, if you saw that, man, he was working really hard and I would have been tired too. And I'm like, you think Tua sees that and goes, man, I know I've got 45 concussions, but am I misremembering that you told me I sucked every day and that I need to be better? And then this guy taps out of a game because he ran around for 5 minutes and got a half-yard gain, and you're going to come back and tell him, well, I would have been tired too. Come on now.
Hey, man, maybe it's growth by Brian Flores. That's just, him evolving as a human being. But no, I think I just coach speak up there.
I know it is. It was just funny when you know the history of Tua being like, I will not forgive that guy. I don't like him. He made my life a living hell. And then he's like, you know what? A play that pretty unanimously everyone agrees was crazy for a quarterback to tap out.
Oh, it is. And talk about the two extremes. And for Tua, we want him to actually exercise more caution. Going there, he's like, I'm not wearing a guardian cap. I'm going out there to hell with it. I've had multiple concussions. I'm going back, and it's like we would like you to exercise a little more caution.
Yes.
Maybe you should be, tapping out a little bit here, but he won't. And yeah, no, you're right. That's two sides, two very different sides of the same coin, if you will. But I would that's pretty interesting. I didn't think about that from that point of view, but we'll see if Brian Flores what his game plan is versus Joe Flacco. I'm sure he would have loved to go up against Anthony Richardson. He's probably licking his chops, and now he's like, "Damn it!
I know.
Now I got a veteran quarterback I'm going up against. Damn it!" You want those rookies. He was just throwing all type of crazy looks at him. But now you got an old veteran Joe Flacco. He ain't gonna panic at all.
No, that's why he was trying to do it. He was like, "No, man, I think you know what? I think you should give him another shot."
Exactly. I don't know what y'all doing, man. I think this is a mistake. That young man needs more time. I think y'all should put him out there and you should stick with him and and make sure that he's your face of the franchise. Yeah, that's exactly what it was. All right. Well, you know what? We'll come back and we'll get into the preview of the Falcons and the Cowboys. We'll do that in Rod's rant. We'll also talk about the Texans and the Jets. We'll get back into that too. But let's talk Cowboys. This is a big game for the Cowboys, man. The Cowboys cannot afford to lose this game to the Falcons, and they could easily lose this game to the Falcons. We'll come back and tell you why, and we'll break that down right here on the Rodcast featuring Patrick Davis. I'm lifetime Longhorn Rod Davis coming back on the horn. All right, welcome back to the Rodcast. Time to hit the Cowboys Falcons matchup. The one thing that worries me for the Cowboys in this matchup, and I've talked about this before, the Falcons have a really creative run game. Recently, they started using a lot of what they call insert blocks with their motion guys. Like they'll motion a tight end across the formation. Say how Texas does it too, right? They'll have, Gunnar Helm as an offset wing or an offset flex, like right outside the tackle, but he's back, and he'll go in motion across the formation, and they'll snap it while he's in motion, and usually, Gunnar Helm or the tight end, he'll go and block the opposite side, the backside edge defender, or whoever the backside defender is coming off of that edge. He'll go block that guy, and it'll be a wide zone to the opposite side of where he's going in motion. Well, the Falcons have been using that same guy as an insert block into like the B gap. Like they use him to be a combo blocker on the D tackle. And honestly, it's very creative, man. Honestly, I guarantee Sark's gonna do it. I put money on the Sark's gonna do it. And so Sark's definitely watching Bijan. I mean, that's his guy. So he's definitely watching Bijan. He watched a lot of the NFL. He says that. I watched the NFL. He pays attention to the Shanahan coaching tree, and the Mick Shanahan coaching tree, Sean McVay's too. And if I'm not mistaken, Zach Robinson is from that tree. Yep, the same Zach Robinson that was at Oklahoma State, who is there now at Atlanta. And like I said, since they've been running this concept, they take that, call it kind of insert block, but he's going in motion. He motions and ends up, combo blocking the D tackle in the B gap, or going to block the linebacker at the second level, but they're going through the B gap instead of going all the way across the formation. And since they started doing that, a lot of teams have started doing it a ton. I haven't seen Texas do it, but I guarantee with a bye week too, makes perfect sense. You got to see it. My point is really creative run concepts by the Atlanta Falcons. They're doing some cool, funky stuff that I think I like. And the Cowboys have one of the worst rush defenses, the second worst rush defense in all of the NFL, and that worries me. And specifically on the edges. Now, how about this? 44% of Atlanta's running plays have gained 5 or more yards. That's the highest rate in the league. They pop them. And I think it's a lot of because of the creativity. A lot is because of Bijan. Bijan he's really good, and they have good talent there. But that worries me going up against this Cowboys defense, and we don't know if Micah's going to play. Deron Bland is going to be back. If Micah not playing is huge, and really them having issues, or at least them having a depleted edge room and being down to their third, fourth edges. It really has hurt the Cowboys, and teams have basically gone after the edges. Remember, they were running downhill on the Cowboys, attacking the interior, the guts of that defense. Now that has shifted a little bit, and it shifted because when DeMarcus Lawrence got hurt and when Micah got hurt, teams saw an easier path to attack the edges. How about this one? From weeks 1 through 4, the Cowboys, if you go look at it, just looking at the edges, right? They faced the highest percentage of carries by running backs directed outside the tackles this season. In fact, it's the highest rate faced by a defense since 2016, since they've been keeping track of it. 66% of the runs that the Cowboys defense face are directed outside the tackles. They're trying to hit it on you. And it's crazy because early in the season, teams are running downhill on them. They were attacking the D tackles. Remember? D tackles were so bad. They were inept. They were the worst D tackles in all of football. You couldn't figure out with Mozzie Smith. Remember Mike Zimmer telling the media, I need big bodies. I need D tackles. So now the edge, that's why you got to get Micah back, and you got to get him back soon. But on those runs, specifically, Cowboys defense has allowed yards to be gained at the third highest rate on those runs outside the tackles, and they've allowed the second highest success rate on such runs. So they're attacking your edges. And Atlanta does a great job of attacking the edges too in their run game. And not only are you missing, the presence of Micah and DeMarcus Lawrence in the run game, but of course you're missing them in the passing game. The Cowboys have not been able to generate pressure organically without Micah and without DeMarcus Lawrence. weeks 1 through 4, the Cowboys defense generated pressure with 4 or fewer pass rushers at a top 10 rate, actually 7th highest rate in the NFL. Weeks 5 through 8, so some of the injuries have hit on the edges. The Cowboys defense generated pressure with 4 fewer pass rushers at the 2nd lowest rate in the league. So that is, I think, your big issue right now. You're really missing Micah defensively. You're really missing DeMarcus Lawrence defensively. And hell, remember Sam Williams went down. Man, did you hear about the Sam Williams little sidebar suspension? He's gonna have a suspension when he comes back from the injury. I think it was violating the PED policy or something like that. I'll have to go check it out. I wrote it down in my notes and didn't even bring it up because we were talking about so many other topics that day. But I'll go back and get it. But I did read that, and it kind of went under the radar. Nobody really cared about it. But I'll get into that. But the Cowboys are missing their edges. It's obvious. The Atlanta Falcons, one thing they also do a lot of that I'm worried about in this game, they play a lot of 11 personnel. It's actually crazy. They lead the NFL right now in 11 personnel usage. They worked out of 11 personnel. In week 1, it was just like 48% of the time. But ever since then, they have used 11 personnel at least 85% in every single game. Shout out to our stat. This is from Pro Football Reference and from StatHead. Shout out to them. Every single game. In 5 games, they were over 94% 11 personnel. So they're going 11. And the Cowboys usually match up with nickel with their 11. Thank God DeRon Bland is coming back this game. That's big because you're going to need him. And he has basically, they usually match nickel. But one thing that concerns me is that the Cowboys also operate a lot in base. As a matter of fact, base is just with 4 DBs. They operate in base the 2nd highest rate in the NFL so far this season. And I think it's just because they're trying to give some boost to their run support or to their run defense. The Cowboys played last season just 38 snaps in base because Dan Quinn hated base defense. He loves sub packages, nickel, dime with extra DBs on the field. And so Dallas has used nickel at the 5th lowest rate in the NFL so far this season, but we usually try to match 11 with their nickel. So we'll see with DeRon Bland being back, and maybe that has something to do with it too. The injuries that you had at corner. So maybe now we'll see with DeRon Bland being back, you'll see more of those sub packages for the Cowboys defense. So defensively, I'm worried about the Cowboys being able to, put pressure on Kirk Cousins, and of course being able to stop the run because it's tough for them to do either without their top edge rushers and their top edge defenders. On the flip side, for Cowboys fans, Dak, it's interesting. The Cowboys' run game it's a non-factor. I mean, they got the worst run game in all of the NFL, and it's, to me, it's something that's only gonna it's not gonna improve. Like, I think it's not gonna improve that much. I think at this point you just have to accept that you're a one-dimensional offense, and you have to have like extensions of the running game, things to supplement the running game. I mean, you still don't have a run over 20 yards. You're the only team in the league without a rush over 20 yards.
No, and Mike McCarthy was like, yeah, it's just hard when doing by committee because you can't get any of these guys enough touches. Like, I don't think that's the problem, Mike.
That's not the problem, Mike.
That's not the problem, Mike.
That's right. Like, isn't that crazy? They don't have a run. They're the only team in the league without a running play of 20 yards or more. Matter of fact, CeeDee Lamb actually is arguably their most explosive rusher. I believe he's got a run. He's got a 12-yard and like a 10-yard run. I got 12.
Yeah, I think Turpin's got an 11-yarder in there too.
I think you're right about that. Yeah, on some ins and rounds.
Yeah. I don't know if we even got to 15. Have we even got to 15 on somebody yet?
I don't know.
I don't think we.
Yeah, see, he's got a 10 to 12-yard run. Yeah, their longest run has been by a running back has been 13 yards. So
13. Good
13.
Lord.
Yeah, and I don't see that improving. I don't see that getting better. So you have to you have to execute with what you have. And right now the Cowboys are heavily dependent on the passing game. And I think, with that being said, for Dak, because of that, he's having to throw through a lot of tighter windows, like a lot of tight window throws. Here's a stat about Dak and his tight window throw. And by the way, it should be easier against the Falcons. I'll say that. and I'll tell you why in a second. But if you look at Dak right now, his most of his interceptions have come on throws past the sticks. Matter of fact, all of his interceptions have come on throws past the sticks. All eight interceptions, excuse me, have come on throws where he's throwing football downfield, past the first down marker, and that does lead the NFL in interceptions on throws past the six. In 2023, he threw only 5 interceptions on throws that he was throwing past the first down marker. And he had 30 touchdown passes, which led the NFL. So he's taking more risks downfield, which means I think they need to add in a little bit better, like layered passing game, like short, intermediate, and then give him his options past the first down marker. I think it would be if you had the running game that was working a little bit better, maybe you could say I had the change. So maybe we're talking about, Dak in a lot of second and long and third and long situations because you have no running game on first down. And maybe because they have no running game on first down, they're throwing the ball on first down because they throw the ball a lot. So this could be a byproduct of that. But he also is throwing through tighter windows, so his wide receivers aren't winning as much. Even CD talked about this. He said we need to fight more at the top of the routes for Dak. So they're not winning their one-on-ones. They're not creating as much separation, even though nobody was around CD at the end of that 49 game. But Dak's tight window throw percentage beyond the sticks this season, 34%. That's the 4th highest rate in the league. So when he does throw past the sticks, he's throwing into really tight windows. And he's accurate. Dak's accurate. But that is up from his mark last year on such throws was 25% on tight windows. Now he's actually damn near at 35%. He's at 34.9%. So he's throwing past the sticks more than ever before. He's taking more risks with it because that's all of his interceptions have come on throws past the sticks. And he is doing it in the tighter windows than he's ever done before because the receivers aren't creating enough separation. And so to me, that is kind of a formula for, a dysfunctional offense. You're one-dimensional, and even in that one dimension, you're taking a lot of risks. It's a lot of risky throws. Think about Sark's offense. There's no risk in it. Y'all are mad because there's no risk in the offense because it's just dump it down. There's no risk. Quinn Ewers is not making. He had to make like 9 risky throws that was past 10 yards. Now, I'm not saying that's what the Cowboys need to do, but there does need to be some layering of the passing game where it seems like a lot of the concepts are down the field for Dak. And Dak needs more options, more solutions, I think, baked into the offense, in the Tex Coast offense, as they call it. So that's kind of what I've noticed, just kind of looking at some of the metrics and analytics. They need to help Dak out. If you want to be a one-dimensional offense, and that's what you are because your running game is just largely symbolic at this point, then you need to have different elements and concepts to supplement the running game, and the quick passing game's got to be a part of that, or the short intermediate passing game has to be a big part of that too.
Yeah. By the way, giving you a little back on Sam Williams, 3-game suspension for that reckless driving charge he had gotten in 2023. But he won't have to miss any games. They're just going to take his game checks while he's on IR.
Oh, you can do that?
Apparently so.
Interesting. I didn't know that. Okay.
Yeah. So they're more. It's more a monetary penalty.
I got you.
But they're like, well, you don't have to. You're already missing time. So, but you will. You're going to miss 3 game checks.
Okay. All right. Thank you for clarifying it. I thought I saw something about that. I didn't realize. Man, that's a long time ago. The NFL takes a while.
Yeah.
Is
that a months-long investigation? You're like, yeah, months and months.
I guess they're doing their due diligence. You know what? Don't rush it. All right, don't rush it. But yeah, so that's, I think, for Dak on offense, that's the biggest concern because you don't have a running game. I don't think there's anything you really can do to improve the running game other than go trade for a running back. But the Cowboys running game, it is what it is, guys. It's bad. It is what it is, and what it is the worst running game in the league. That's what it is. And I can't understand how you can look at that product and be satisfied with it or even assume it's going to get better. That's what Jerry's doing. He says we like our guys and we got faith in our guys. I think that is a miscalculation.
Yeah.
By Jerry,
we've understood. Zeke was washed when you let him go the first time.
Come on, man.
And then you brought him back 2 years later for God knows what reason. I
The
still don't
thrill
get
is
it.
gone.
It's Rico Dottle is a decent change of pace back,
Yeah.
and you needed a first back, and they just decided they weren't going to get one.
Don't understand. Yep. I don't. Yeah. They had this problem has been years in the making too.
Yeah.
Like it's actually been something that you could have found a solution to, not just this offseason. A lot of Cowboys fans, we've been talking about the Cowboys and their lack of preparation for the future of the running back position. And yeah, it's finally coming back to bite them.
And then they had the whole "we love Jonathan Brooks," that whole thing where they kept talking about how great it was, so everyone knew if he fell to them, they were going to take him. So all you had to do was, well, if you want Jonathan Brooks, just get in front of the Cowboys, and the Panthers got in front of the Cowboys.
Yeah, they did.
But that's all you got to do, because Jerry did, instead of being aggressive and going up and getting his guy, just said no, I'm good.
Yep.
I mean, imagine if you had like a healthy Jonathan Brooks being added to this offense right now.
Yep. Oh no, the irony is you've been going up against running backs who just been showing out on you. Derrick Henry and like Alvin Kamara, and now Bijan's about to do it. You've been going up against running backs who just the 49ers running back.
The fifth stringer?
Yeah, whatever. Yeah, forget his name.
Yeah,
yes, there you go. Yeah, he had a hell of a day. It's like are you not seeing that the teams, because you're the one of the worst rush defenses in all the NFL. Do you not see what a good running back can do? And look,
I get this scheme is probably not great for running either. It's probably not 100% on the running backs, but if you know that, then even if you fix the scheme and you put, I think if you put these running backs in the Shanahan offense, you're still maybe getting, 25% increase in production.
Yeah. You definitely get an increase in production,
but
so
not
a
50 to 100% increase, which is what his guys are getting right now.
Nope, I agree with that. Yeah, I think there is. It's a little bit about. I think mostly it is a talent issue though, because we've talked about this.
Well, and because your system is based around throwing the football with Dak Prescott, that's what your entire system is based around.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's not what the 49ers offense is not based around Brock Purdy throwing the football.
No.
So if you say that's our scheme is Dak Prescott, we get that. Then you have to add a running back who understands that he is not going to be the feature of it, but needs to give you yardage.
Yeah, no, Dak Prescott. That's a good point. Dak Prescott is the scheme, and I don't know if that's working out for him right now.
I mean, when you have one of the least quarterback-friendly offenses,
that's what it seems like. Yeah, that's a great way of putting it. It's not quarterback-friendly. It's supposed to be Dak. It's supposed to be Dak-friendly. Texco's offense is supposed to be basically a modified offense to make everything as Dak-friendly as possible.
It's that very closed-minded set of, well, if I'm going to pay you like a top quarterback, I need you to be the greatest quarterback to ever play. You go, well, but that's not a winning method. That's you being stubborn because of the way the market is. He didn't set the market. He just played on the market. So if you want to get mad, then get mad at everybody, or sell the team if you don't like what the quarterback market is. You can sell the team and not have to be a part of it, but you can't go actively against it and say, well, if I'm going to pay him, then I'm not giving him a running back. I'm not giving him more wide receivers. I'm not giving him we're not gonna make sure that he gets guys open, and we're not gonna try and get easy throws for him.
Yeah,
we want him to make every play. You're like, well, but that's not reality.
Yeah, you can't put the cape on every damn play. Like,
no, and it's silly to want. Like, you should want your guy to only have to put the cape on in big games, and everything else should be an easier game where he just goes, oh no, 300 yards and 2 touchdowns. That's kind of just average for Dak. That's what it should be, because your offense is built that way. But it feels like he has to overachieve so much, and he's not overachieving right now. And that's it. Like, I don't want to say that he's overachieving, because he's not. He's not playing that well. But it's also, I don't know how many quarterbacks would play really well in this offense right now.
To your point, his tight window throw percentage is the highest in the NFL. He's the only quarterback right now over 20% in tight window throw percentage. So it's way too many tight window throws. Remember, I remark oftentimes about Sark. I call them, first read, wide window, schemed open throws. It seems like nobody is around these guys and they're wide open. There are certain concepts that are that friendly for your quarterback, and you really don't see a lot of those with Dak. those kind of schemed open wide window throws for him. What Sark calls opportunity throws. He calls them opportunities for a free completion, an easy completion for your quarterback. What are the easy completions for Dak? Not enough of those. Need more of those within the offense. All right. We'll talk more about the Cowboys and the Falcons as the show goes on. Preview that matchup for you right now. I don't know. It's hard for me to feel confident about the Cowboys in this matchup. I think the Cowboys can win. They can beat the Falcons, but the Falcons can exploit, some of the biggest weaknesses that the Cowboys have, which is especially that rush defense. But we'll talk more about that when we come back. We'll come back with facts with the stats on the other side, right here on the Rodcast, featuring Patrick Davis. I'm Lifetime Longhorn. Rod Babers coming back on the horn. All right, welcome back to the Rodcast. I'm getting to what the facts, what the stats. How about this one? And I heard you mention this, I should say, Patrick, in the update or in the Horn headlines. How about this one? I love Victor Wemby stats. It's one of my favorite parts of the NBA season. They're just freaky, crazy stats. I mean, he's got like every other game. There's a freaky, crazy Wemby stat. So only 3 players in NBA history have had more than one 5x5 game.
Yes. There's only
Hakeem
23 in history ever.
Yeah,
This is the 23rd in history.
Yeah, because Victor has 2 now.
Victor has 2
right?
now.
Victor Wembanyama has 2 in 76 games, by the way, which is really impressive because Andre Kirilenko has 3 in 797 games, right?
Yep.
3 in 797 games. Hakeem the Dream had 6 in 1,238 games, and Victor 2 in 76 games.
Yeah,
freaky.
No, and his response after the game was basically, when I see this needs to be the standard, not like I need to have these way more. Because if I'm capable of doing this, I need to be making impacts in all the types of games. You're like, I get it. And 5 for 5 is like, if 4 blocks is somewhat average for him, that's it. The 5 steals is really hard
for a big man like that.
Well, just to get the opportunities for 5 steals and 5 blocks in a game. The 5 assists, 5 rebounds, 5 points. Yes, those should be pretty automatic at this point, especially because they're doubling him a ton now. That was the game the other day against Oklahoma City, where he had his lowest scoring game ever. That was basically, they just doubled him the entire game and said, we know the rest of your team's not that good, so we're just going to make everybody else hit threes and beat us. We don't think you can do it. And they couldn't. and so they just kind of kept double teaming. They got turnovers. They pushed them around a little bit more.
So you got to come up with a plan for that.
You do. And Oklahoma City Thunder are 5 years ahead of the Spurs on kind of the same model, which is you get your guy and then build around him. They're 4 or 5 years ahead. So it's not fully surprising, but at the same point, you understand that there's still some growing that needs to happen. But yeah, though, when you see him do that again after having a bad performance, his response is to put up another 5x5 to
make history.
Yeah, instead of going in a slump, say, no, I'm going to respond by having a really, really good game.
It's amazing. Yeah, 25 points, 9 rebounds, 7 assists, 5 blocks, and 5 steals. Wow. The Wemby stats, man. They get freakier all the time. I can't wait to really to watch what they do, how they build around them. That's still going to be, I think, one of the more compelling stories over the next couple of years. With such a freaky, unique skill set, one that we've never seen in the history of basketball, at least in the modern age, we haven't seen anything like it. How do you build around it? Because there's no blueprint. There's no precedent. Like, you're going to have to do this thing. You're going to have to do it on the fly.
And so Devin Vassell is their second best player. He's been out still with injury. He had surgery on the offseason. He's been out. He's supposed to come back soon. So seeing him come back will help. But you are kind of curious if there's going to be in the next couple of years a superstar that says, I want to go play with Wemby. We know Chris Paul did, but there's a 40-year-old Chris Paul, not someone in their prime. So does someone in their prime say, I want to go play with Wemby? Or do we get more LeBron types that are saying, I want to play with Wemby. You should leave San Antonio.
Exactly. I want to play with Wemby, but I don't want to play in San Antonio.
Yeah, so that'll be an issue for Spurs fans as well, because both of those are going to be. And we know Luka Doncic at some point will probably go for that. Hey, why don't you come here? And, why don't you come here? And neither one's going to want to leave, so that probably won't happen. But there could be some move along the line where somebody decides they want to come to San Antonio because they want to play with Wemby, because they know how wide open that'll get them a lot.
Oh yeah, like I said, I can't wait to see exactly how it all plays out. All right, there you go. So freaky Victor Wembanyama stats for you. All right, we got coming up. We'll talk more about the Jets and their win over the Texans, the issues the Texans have right now. I guess I'm not going to press the panic button, but I do have one now with me. There is a panic button for the Texans in case they can't protect their quarterback, CJ Stroud, in their upcoming game. And the next 2 games for the Texans, are going to be potential trouble for them. Detroit and Dallas. Dallas could actually bounce back versus the Texans. We'll talk about that too. But we'll get into the Texans coming up next. We'll also go behind the Burners curtain. We'll talk some Texas Longhorns. We know they got a bye week, but hey, we got some bye week notes. I've been doing some review of the Longhorns and kind of their first the first two phases of the schedule. I'll give you some of my news and nuggets that I got from my research about the Longhorns. We'll do that when we go behind the Burn Notes curtain. And coming up, we'll also dive more into the college football schedule. Big game coming up between Penn State and Ohio State this weekend. We'll review that a little bit too, or preview that a little bit too, I should say. All that and more right here on the Rodcast featuring Patrick Davis. I'm Lifetime Longhorn Rod Babers coming back on the horn. Welcome back to the Rodcast. It is a Freak Flag Feel Good, Fake It Till You Make It. Ric Flair, woo! Football 512 Friday edition of the Rodcast. And that 512 means that my co-host, the Idillionaire Patrick Davis, he plays jams from local bands and artists, very talented human beings that you have a chance to catch live right here in the ATX. Who we jamming right now, Patrick?
This is Riders Against the Storm. Awesome group right there. They're playing Friday at the Sahara Lounge. So tonight at the Sahara Lounge.
That's a nice jam right there. I like that. It's good. Good energy, good vibe. Feels like a kind of Friday night kind of jam right there. I like that. Appreciate Patrick hooking us up with a 512 Friday. We also appreciate him coming up with the topic for the big fat poll of the day, which is already posted at the Horns X account at the Horn ATX on X. Patrick, what is the topic for the big fat poll of the day?
Big fat poll of the day. What is your minimum expectation for Texas basketball this season? Right now, win a game in the tourney is winning at 43%. Sweet 16 is at 41%.
Okay.
And then
Right there.
14% says Elite 8. 2.2% says win the SEC. So Elite 8, I'm sure if I put win the national championship, some people would pick
Somebody
that.
would do it.
I think I get, like, I fully understand that this is Texas and Texas should be playing for national championships. As someone who has watched Texas basketball for the last 30 years, I don't have any reason to expect for top recruits at large mass to come to Texas over Kansas, over Duke, over North Carolina, over a UConn, over some of these other programs that consistently get these top recruits. They're basketball programs. They're basketball first.
They're blue bloods.
And they are schools who care way more about basketball than they care about football. And as long as you care more about football, you will never be a basketball school. And that's fine because we are a football school.
Mm-hmm.
I get that. So we can have a really good basketball program. But you have to then set your standard a little bit lower for some of your other sports. You cannot say every single sport across the board standard is a national championship. It's unrealistic. And it's putting a lot of pressure where you're just going to have to fire a coach every 2 years, 3 years, and have no semblance of building any type of culture or building anything. So I get it. I think that I said win one game should be your minimum. You should be aiming for Elite 8. You should be aiming for a Final Four. You should be aiming for all those things. But I think winning one game is, okay, that's your minimum expectation. This is, if we get there, then maybe something didn't go exactly right in the season. Maybe we didn't get where we needed to be, but I'm okay with that result. Sweet 16 is a pretty good goal. Sweet 16, again, means you're a top 16 in the team in the country.
Mm-hmm.
I think if you're a top 25 team in the country, you're doing pretty good. I get it. I get that that's not everybody's belief, but as someone who's watched this program for the last 30 years, that is what Texas basketball is. And I'd love for it to get better, but it hasn't. There hasn't been a point where we are a consistent Final Four team. And that's kind of, you need to be a consistent Elite 8, consistent Final Four team. And Texas has never been that. So until Texas does, I refuse to say, well, that's the standard now, even though Texas has never done it.
Yeah.
I get it's changing with NIL, that there should be money. But once again, the amount of money, and other schools got money too.
Blue blood basketball programs. They're what Texas pumps into his football program. They pump into basketball.
Yes.
Their version of it. So yeah, they got money. And like Patrick said, he's right. I mean, if I'm being recruited, it matters to me how important the sport is on that campus.
Yeah.
I mean, going to Texas, where football is religion, that matters to me. And I think it matters to other. You want to be a star on the campus, and football players are stars on the Texas campus. Basketball players are tall, but not necessarily stars.
No, and I mean, we're hoping.
But when you're on the Duke campus and on the North Carolina campus, they're tall and they're stars.
Yes.
And they're treated like celebrities and stars there with NIL and by the fans.
No.
And that is different at Texas. The football players are, hell, your backup quarterbacks here and your backup running backs here probably get more love than some of the basketball players get when they're out in the town.
No, and that's, I mean, Trey Johnson is a top 5 recruit. He is a guy everyone should be extremely pumped about.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't know if he gets the same love as some of our
pick somebody.
Some of our players that, I would tell you more people would be jumping around Silas Bolden than Trey Johnson. And I like Silas Bolden. I think Silas Bolden's a hell of a player.
Mm-hmm.
Silas Bolden is number 4 receiver for Texas. Number 5?
Maybe lower, maybe.
Yeah. And I love it. Great special teams player. Not saying anything bad about Silas Bolden. Trey Johnson, number 5, top 5 recruit in the country. should be a star player for Texas this year.
Yeah.
Hopefully someone that goes down the annals that pushes Texas to unrealized goals and everything for Texas this year. Just saying. Most people will be like, dude, that's Silas Bolden.
I put Wingo above Bolden, but still, I get you. So I think he's like fifth.
Well, no, I would do it, but he started the game.
Yeah, no, you're right. I'm just saying. Yeah.
I mean, I think Cook's down a little bit now.
Oh yeah, Cook is down. I think my top four would be Golden, Bond, Wingo, Moore, and then that's my top four.
Okay,
and I would put Bolden.
Okay, you're right. Yep,
you're
right.
Put
you're
Cook
right.
Sixth.
You're dead on.
So,
you're
but
to
even making your point even more though, they get excited about the fifth receiver in the rotation, and he probably get more love than
just
Trey.
saying.
Yes.
Just saying.
Yeah. I agree with you.
Just saying. I don't want to be too controversial here, but
I've experienced it and I lived it, and it's true.
I can tell you, Cooper Flagg is getting a lot more love than Malik Murphy and Duke right now.
Yes, there's no question. Malik, yes, and they're good right now. Duke is actually they're winning games. Duke, right? They got a big game coming up this weekend.
Yeah, no, they're playing Miami this week.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah,
let's go. Let's go, Malik Murphy. Come on.
Go, Malik.
Knock off Miami.
Yeah, no, we are.
Come on.
We're rooting for Malik Murphy. Let's go, baby. Let's go. And Manny Diaz going back to Miami.
Oh, that's true.
Manny Diaz,
yes.
Right? That's Manny because he's from Miami, right? I believe he's originally a Miami guy.
Folder of photos of children.
Of teenagers. It's photos of teens.
Sounds
pre-teens,
so weird.
Maybe.
Sounds so weird out of context.
But it worked. That's how you got Malik Murphy. It was a photo of him as a teen or a preteen that closed the deal. Who knew? Yeah, it's creepy, but hey, man, if it works in recruiting. All right, there you go. So that's the topic of the Big Fat Poll. They go vote on that. We're excited about Texas basketball starting up. We'll do a breakdown. I mean, Patch is going to break it down for you on Monday. We'll preview their matchup to start the season, but we'll also preview some Texas football also next week too, because we'll start talking about their matchup versus Florida. But Texas is on a bye week right now, so I'll give you some of my notes that I've been doing some research, some bi-week research about the Texas football team. I'll give you some of those notes when we go behind the Burn-Ons curtain. But coming up after the Horn headlines, we'll talk about the Texans and their loss to the Jets. We're going to hear from D'Amico Ryans, hear from CJ Stroud, hear from Aaron Rodgers and Garrett Wilson about that catch that now belongs to the ages, that one-handed touchdown grab that now belongs to the ages. Very Odell Beckham-esque with that type of effort from Garrett Wilson. So we'll get into that. But first, let's hit the Horn headlines. So let's get educated. Let's get updated. Let's get informed with all the top stories of the day with Patrick Davis and the Horn headlines.
All right, your Horn headlines brought to you by Top Gun Rentals and Lawn Equipment. In the NBA, the Spurs got a win over the Jazz 106-88 last night, with Victor Wembanyama getting his second career 5x5 with 25 points, 9 rebounds, 7 assists, 5 steals, and 5 blocks. And the Rockets took down the Mavs 108-102, led by Jalen Green with 23 points. Kyrie Irving and Luka Doncic combined for 57 points in the losing effort. In college football, Texas gets the week off while number 18 Pitt faces number 20 SMU in an ACC matchup. Number 5 Miami goes against a 6-win Duke team. Number 1 Oregon travels to Michigan. Number 2 Georgia takes on Florida. Number 10 Texas A&M looks to remain unbeaten in SEC play against South Carolina. And number 3 Penn State tries to beat number 4 Ohio State for the first time since 2016. And in the NFL, the Texans took a loss to the Jets 21-13 on Thursday Night Football, with CJ Stroud being sacked 8 times in the game. This Sunday, the Cowboys head to Atlanta to take on the Falcons, while the late window is headlined by the Lions versus the Packers. And on Sunday Night Football, the Colts take on the Vikings. And that is your Horn headlines.
All right, thank you, Patrick, for the Horn headlines. We appreciate those. And I said yesterday, if the Texans once again give up or allow a career high in pressure rate to the Jets, it would in fact be the third game in a row where CJ Stroud was under more pressure than he had been in any game in his career with the Texans. And now it is official. The top 3 pressure rates in Stroud's career have been in each of the last 3 games. That is a troubling trend, ladies and gentlemen. That is it. To me, like I said, I haven't gotten the we have a panic button. I'm not pressing the panic button yet, but I do believe we need a panic button now, just in case. Once again, we see this type of trend continue with the Texans in their next game, which, like I said, we got time to talk about that. But let's talk about this matchup. So CJ Stroud, because of that pressure rate, he's the first player to be sacked 8 times and complete 11 or fewer passes in a game since Zach Wilson did it in 2021, ironically, for the Jets. So in this game, according to Fantasy Life, the pressure rate on CJ Stroud in week 9, you were at 45%. For week 8, you were at 46%. And week 7, you were at 51%. That's a horrible trend. Now, before that, I will say this, and this is so maybe there is something about the Nico Collins injury, and now without Stephon Diggs as well. But that Nico Collins injury, you can tell things kind of shifted after that. The week 1 pressure rate allowed by the Texans, 31%. Week 2, 30%. Week 3, 35%. Week 4, it was 28%. Week 5, it was 35%. Week 6, it was 31%. And then we see a precipitous we see an increase, a ridiculous increase in the pressure rates allowed, but we see a precipitous decline in the overall effectiveness and efficiency of the offensive line for the Texans. And so maybe it's something about, the running game is what really picked up around that time. That's the strange thing. Joe Mixon, when he's in there and healthy, he's been really productive. Even in this game, Joe Mixon was relatively productive, but the passing game was not. So for me, I do think need a panic button because something's happening with the Texans offensive line and they're trending the wrong way. And here's the thing that bothered me most in that game last night. And we'll get to obviously talking about Aaron Rodgers and his performance and Garrett Wilson and his extraordinary kid. So I would give the Jets a lot of credit. But to me, ultimately, this was disappointing to watch because the Texans' ineptitude and dysfunction on the offensive line is starting to become systemic. So Laremy Tunsil is considered the best offensive lineman they have. He is their guy that's got all-pro potential. He's considered to be one of the best offensive linemen in the NFL. But he's also the most penalized offensive lineman in the NFL. He's got more penalties than any of the linemen, so he's undisciplined. And last night, he just got straight up whipped a few times. He just got beat. Will McDonald generated a season-high 9 pressures on 33 pass rushes. But 6 of those 9 pressures came on just 15 snaps. He was matched up against Laremy Tunsil and just beat him. And so your left tackle is the most undisciplined, arguably the most undisciplined lineman in the league. And now he's just getting beat by high-level pass rushers. And Will McDonald is really good. He's one of the best pass rushers in the NFL, but he's really good. As a matter of fact, he has now generated at least 20% or more pressure rate in 6 games this season. That's the most such games this season. So he's an elite pass rusher right now in the league. But your left tackle is supposed to also be in that elite conversation, and he ain't playing like it. And then on the right side, Titus Howard, these are guys you spent a lot of draft capital on. He went up against Hassan Reddick, who made his way back for the Jets. And Hassan Reddick had 8 pressures on 32 pass rush snaps in his second game back for the Jets. He recorded 6 of those in 21 snaps going straight up against Titus Howard. It was the second most pressures by a Jets pass rusher in a game this season. Obviously behind Will McDonald. So they had 33 pressures. They generated as a team 33 pressures overall. And that is inexcusable for your franchise quarterback to be under that much duress consistently. And there was a lot of, and you want to look at why CJ Stroud looked so pedestrian in that matchup and why he completed, 11 passes in that game. It's because he's playing, it's in scramble drill mode. And you can tell now, I forget how many rushes. I think he had like 5 scrambles or something in that game. He's not staying around in the pocket anymore. He's getting the hell out of Dodge. He's developing a habit of, all right, I'm getting out of this pocket. I'm moving. I'm gone. and they're not moving the pocket. He's just getting the hell. He's abandoning the pocket. That's also not a good sign because he's learned I can't trust these guys. I can't trust them to hold up very long. And I don't want to just kill every play by sticking in the pocket. I need to extend the play and give my receivers, which now you're depleted there. You don't have Nico Collins creating separation as quickly as, as you would like. You don't have a Stephon Diggs who creates that quick separation and has earned your trust as a quarterback. Tank Dell was great in that game. He really was. He had 6 receptions. He had 126 yards, even at that 50-yard, a lot of explosive plays. So you still got a dude, but remember when you had 3 of those and how different the passing game and offense will look. And I think that's that also is affecting your pass protection. I think CJ would get the ball out quicker with more confidence because he had receivers getting separation. You don't have that. And now you're seeing that reflected in the offensive line that CJ doesn't have enough time to look downfield to be able to look downfield in the pocket while his receivers create separation. He's starting to abandon the pocket to have more time so that his receivers can create separation down the field. Either way, it's unsustainable.
No, and I mean, like that the example of why he's bailing on those pockets too is that fumble early in the game, which he needs to be better at protecting the ball and not just let the ball squeeze out of his hands. But at the same part where it was he goes to step up in the pocket, but the ends have pushed the guys in far enough that he gets basically bumped on both sides by his own offensive lineman that you're like, you can't even get it enough that I can squeeze up in the pocket. I can't. It's too tight already that they're pushing in that much. You can't lose that much ground on it. Like you're supposed to be pushing them further away, and they're still getting to me and get a fumble where basically I just lose the ball because I get hit in the arm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, that was their. For me though, that's the thing that, and I don't know if it was planned to be this way to dissuade pre-snap penalties or it's the play calling is going in slower because they don't know what to do without their wide receivers. I don't know what the reasoning is, but it feels like they are getting to the line way later than they were early in the season. And there is a lot of times when they get to that line, while they're still walking up to the line, there's less than 10 seconds on the play clock.
That's definitely intentional.
And when you say you have 40 seconds, you're not, these aren't long routes that you're having to, it's not like, because you're doing this in the red zone. It's taking you 10, you're taking you 30 plus seconds to get to the line after the last play. And you just can't operate that slowly because when you do, your defensive linemen have no chance, your offensive linemen have no chance to see whatever's happening. They basically just have to react within the moment. Your quarterback has no chance to read what the defense is going to do before he snaps the ball. And you have no chance to audible if you go out there and you line up and, oh, crap,
they shift on you.
They're just standing in the right place. They don't have to move. You don't know what they're lined up as because you're walking up and you go, all right, I'm kind of looking and all right, I think I've got this figured out, but I'm also trying to make sure my guys are in the right spot. And I'm trying, and 3 seconds. We got to go. It happened way too often in that game. So I don't know if it was.
And maybe he wants to talk to him in the huddle the whole time, like slow it. Because, the headset communication cuts off at 15 seconds left on the play clock. And like you said, they're basically walking up to the line around that time. So maybe he's talking to him that whole time in the huddle.
But whatever it is, it's a bad plan.
It's a horrible plan. And it may actually work in terms of reducing pre-snap penalties, but then there's so many other problems now that arise.
Yes.
Like you said, now our audible system now is moot. It's not as effective because we don't have a chance to survey the defense to be able to audible to get the offense in the right play if the defense has a really good alignment or if they shift in a certain way. So that's a big problem. And I think it actually narrows down when you're going to snap the football for the D line.
Yeah.
So in terms of the BGO and them anticipating the snap count, I think it helps them because they know, like, okay, well, he's got 10 seconds, so he's definitely going to snap the ball. He's not going to wait till 0. And so you just got to, you're like, all right, I know he's going to snap the ball here in the next 3 to 4 seconds.
It's not. They're set up. They're set with 10 seconds to go. They are walking to the line.
That's what I'm saying. And so if you're a D lineman, you're like, okay, well, he's definitely going to snap the ball in the next 3 seconds.
4, 3,
yeah,
2.
all
right, we're going.
Yeah, so I'm with you. Like, I don't understand. I noticed that a few times too. That's a great observation by you. I don't know why now it should be clear that it's not helping you solve or remedy the pressure issue, the pass protection issue. So maybe it reduced the penalties, but now you got issues because of the pass protection. And to me, that's not a proper solution. That cure may be as bad as the disease.
And it may be, hey, let me talk you through it, and then we don't want them to be able to see what we're doing, and any of those pieces you could say
we don't want them to be
there,
able to adjust to it, whatever it is. Yeah.
Whatever you want to say, it's not working. So whatever idea this was, and hopefully it's not just that it's going in too slow and everyone's just being too slow. Hopefully that's not the case, because if it's that, then once again, that goes back to being a little too player friendly and not getting on your players to hustle up and let's go. We got to move. We got to go. It has to be planned. Like you don't, this is an NFL team. Yeah. It feels like at a certain point, it can't just be a byproduct of something going wrong. I know there's been offensive play callers that are slower than others, but it didn't feel like this was a problem for Slowick up until
pace is intentional, and coaches are mindful about pace.
Yes.
How quickly you're getting lined up, and now that is something that they're very mindful of. And you can see some teams they switch the pace. Sark does it. They switch and change the pace all throughout the game. Sometimes they're going slow, sometimes they're going fast. They get a good play. Let's go fast. You know what I mean? We like what we saw on that play. Go. I want to go back to the line. I want them to line up in that again. You know what I mean? That kind of stuff. And it's deliberate. There's no way that is like just that's just a byproduct of their methodology and the way they go about it. No, I think that was, and I would love somebody to ask D'Amico about it and try to figure that out. But like I said, the offensive line is right now an Achilles heel. It's a weakness. I just told you about the tackles. Those are supposed to be your strengths, guys. The strength of your offensive line is supposed to be your tackles, and they got whipped last night. And one of them is the most penalized offensive lineman in the league. And if you look at the interior of the offensive line, you think, all right, is the interior offensive line? Matter of fact, Kenyon Green got hurt in that game, so that's something to keep.
He got hurt by his quarterback being thrown upon his body on the ground. That's not an injury you're supposed to have. Maybe you get rolled up on a run play or something, but normally you didn't get beat so bad that you're laying on your stomach, and then your defender throws your quarterback on top of you.
The irony of it, right?
Yeah, that normally doesn't happen. That's not a great injury.
It's almost like that fumble, how symbolic that was. You like, hold up, did he fumble because his offensive lineman got knocked into him, and the pocket was
offensive linemen.
Yeah. The pocket was squeezed so tightly that he had no room to operate, and then the ball was knocked loose by the butt of his offensive lineman, potentially the back. Yeah, that's what happened. Yeah, trust me, it's a whole new kind of butt fumble thing going on there. But how about this one? The offensive line, the interior offensive line for the Texans have allowed the most sacks in the league, and they've allowed the most pressures in the league. I mean, I don't know what is happening. There are communication issues. There are issues with them just playing as a cohesive unit. Seems like at times they're both that not everybody on the offensive line is on the same page. There also seems to be really right now just technique, and I think fundamentally some of the techniques of the offensive linemen are just flawed, and that's even going back to guys like Laremy Tunsil, who's supposed to be your most decorated offensive lineman. So they got to fix it, and they better fix it fast. I wouldn't press the panic button right now, but there needs to be a panic button available, because I could easily see next week going off the rails for the Texans again. Getting Nico Collins back will help, I'm sure, but even when Nico comes back, now there's a blueprint on how to attack and expose the Texans, and it is go after that O-line, and the O-line can't hold up in pass protection, not consistently.
Yeah, just go right at him.
Just go right at him. Yeah, no, it really is. Whether it be blitzing or whether it be twisting stunts with rushing forward, I think that is pretty obvious. That is the big weakness of that Texans offense. Let's hear first from CJ Stroud. Do we have the CJ Stroud audio here? Can we just hear from CJ Stroud? He was a bit disappointed in, of course, the way his team performed, the way he performed. But I love it. I always say when you lose, you got to be a me guy. When you win, be a we guy. They lost. Listen to how much he puts on himself. Here's CJ Stroud.
Are fighting, and, we got to do a better job of just, getting those guys in better opportunities. It's hard, to just sit here right now and think about what happened because you didn't watch film yet. But, of course, it's embarrassing. And to come out here on the primetime game and, get embarrassed like that is is never fun. And I believe we have to be better in a lot of areas. And that starts with me. I think there's plays I got to make, throws I got to make. Times I got to sit in the pocket and just trust my guys. So I really point the finger at me and realize, I got to be better as a football player. And, if we want to win, this is not the recipe for it. We got to learn how to dominate and stop learning how to, just go with the flow and play in the fourth quarter. Like, we should be able to, play good in the first half and then roll into the second. I think we got to have a better mindset as a whole.
Toll on
You
you
cut it off.
later on.
Cut it off. Yeah, I just want you to kind of hear that he's taking ownership of it, even though, we can clearly see it ain't all on him. D'Amico Ryans, can we hear from D'Amico as well? Because he seems like he's as frustrated as I've seen him, and he should be. And this is kind of one of the first times where, we're going to start calling out D'Amico Ryans because this is a systemic issue now that has been a problem. In my opinion, it's been a problem since early on, but the pressure rates didn't really reflect it. I even said after game one, offensive line looks leaky to me. Well, now the dam is broke. To hell with leaky. All right. There's water gushing all over the damn place. Here is D'Amico Ryans talking about how they got to get these issues fixed on the O-line.
Issues, it went further backwards, no matter who was in there. What do you think's happening with the ability to keep
I'm not sure what's happening up front. We'll watch the film and see what it is, but obviously we give up 8 sacks, and every drop back or pass situation, it looks like we're in scramble mode, so it's just not good enough, and we can't operate on time, and we got to get that fixed.
CJ was sacked 8 times today. Like, how sustainable is the amount of pressure he's been under?
Of course, anytime you get sacked that many times, it's not good enough. Right? Don't want our quarterback getting hit as many hits as we took. It's not good enough, and we got to make things adjust. We got to adjust. We got to change things moving forward.
So he's pretty matter of fact. Unacceptable. Can't have it. They got to fix it. Period. And I will give some props though to the Jets. I did not expect to see that, especially after the first half that we watched from Aaron Rodgers, which, by the way, was one of the worst first halves in his career. You could make the argument it was the worst first half of his career. How about this stat about Aaron Rodgers? His 32 passing yards in the first half were the fewest with 10-plus attempts in his career. His previous low was 37 yards on 12 attempts versus the Broncos. He was having a dreadful game, and the Jets tried to give it away to the Texans multiple times. But I will say that Garrett Wilson catch, one for the ages, the one-handed grab. By the way, both of his touchdown grabs are one-handed grabs. So we talk about the one that was the deep bomb in the back of the end zone, the one that now has become, iconic overnight. It really ignited them. It did show you that one play can ignite a team. If it is a spectacular enough play, if it's miraculous enough, it can ignite the team. And they were losing at the time. They were a different team after that play. They were a different team. Even before that, they had some momentum. But after that, man, the confidence was infectious. Like everybody started to believe after that play. It's like that play made them, it was like such a miracle. It made the entire team believe that they could achieve almost anything. And then Aaron Rodgers in the second half, 15 of 18, 179 yards, 3 touchdowns, 147 passer rating in the second half after a 56 passer rating in the first half. Devontae Adams ended up scoring after that. It really did. I'm telling you, man, that one play, Patrick, it was it. That play infected the team with swagger.
Do you know who really, really loved that play?
Who?
Malachi Corley.
Oh, yeah. That's true.
He has one carry in his NFL career. One.
That was brutal. Yeah.
And he busted it wide open, 18 yards to the end zone, and he dropped the ball at the 1-inch line. And it rolled out the back of the end zone.
Slowly, too. It was like slow. Just rolled slowly.
Anyone could have grabbed it. And someone would have just picked it up to give him the game ball. It's a touchdown.
Yes. Yeah. Oh. Yeah, right. I feel bad for him, but it was good. I'm happy. But I guess it didn't matter. Anyway.
It didn't matter. They gave up 2 fourth downs. They had a roughing the passer and a roughing the snapper to give up fourth down automatic first to the Texans and dropped a touchdown at the 1-yard line. And the Texans still couldn't score more than 13 points.
I'm about to say, not just lost, Lost. I mean,
Scored
like
13
lost,
points.
yeah. No, I'm with you. That's and how to put that in perspective. You brought up the like the fourth downs, like those 4th and 15, those 15-yard penalties that led to the first down on 4th and 20 something situations. Before last night, there had been only 11 times since 2000 that a team converted a 4th and 22 or longer because of a penalty, and the Texans did it twice in one night with the Jets, and the Texans still lost the damn game.
Still lost.
They tried to give it. They tried to give it to you in the first half. I'll
Yep.
admit they tried to give it to you, and Texans didn't want it. The Texans, they weren't mature enough. This is maturity. This is about maturity with this team.
Yeah.
This team is not mature enough yet. They weren't mature enough to take that game and, in the first half and get a big enough lead so they could hold on and survive. They played to the level of their opponent, and right now they got some issues. But I do want to play this sound real quick before we go to breaks. I know we got to go behind the Browns curtain of Aaron Rodgers and him describing what he saw before the Garrett Wilson miraculous one-handed touchdown catch. This is actually pretty cool. It shows you sometimes, to hell with it. You got to choose your player, your guy, right? You think player, not plays in some situations, and that's what Aaron Rodgers was thinking on that play.
The second one.
Well, for the snap, I knew it was 3rd and extra long. I was looking at the weak side safety, and I was like, if he drops down at all, I'm just going to say, screw it. I'm going to throw it up to G. I felt like I put it in a decent spot, but, yeah, I didn't do a whole lot when it comes down to it. I just kind of lobbed one up there. He made an unbelievable catch. When I saw the replay, it looked like he had his knee in. So I thought, shoot, let's throw the challenge. Brick was already in front of me throwing it, but that was a huge play. First one was a huge play as well, but
yeah, the first one was nice, but it didn't ignite the team. That second one, it changed the entire complexion of that game. But I love that Aaron Rodgers said no. When I saw that safety move, I was like, I'm just throwing it up to my guy. I do think there has to be some of that in a quarterback and a wide receiver every now and then. And that shows you that he's been doing it in practice. He trusted Garrett Wilson. Was like, no, I'm just going to give him a chance. If I give him a chance, trust me, that dude will do something freaky because he's probably been doing it in practice. And all you need is my guy to go win and give your guy a chance to win. That's what Longhorn fans kind of want to see from Quinn every now and then.
Yep.
That him trust his guy enough and go, no, my guy's in one-on-one. Go win, dog. And I'll admit, there ain't enough of that with Quinn. Like, just go win. If your guys in one-on-one, give him a ball and let him go win it for you. And you don't see enough of that. So I'll give Aaron Rodgers credit. That was a nice play. All right, let's get to the break because I want to come back and talk some Texas football. I've been doing some research here for the bye week. I'll share some of that research with you and some of those notes with you, and we'll go over kind of a smorgasbord of things talking Texas football on the other side, right here on the Rodcast featuring Patrick Davis. I'm Lifetime Longhorn Rod Babers coming back on the horn. All right, welcome back to the Rodcast. Time to go behind the burnt orange curtain. Talk a little Texas football here on the show. We'll get back to talking some NFL on the other side and college football because I do want to preview the college football weekend a little bit. Let's talk Texas. They're not in action. They're on a bye week. So I've been looking into some research about the Texas team in SEC play specifically. And I found some interesting nuggets that I want to share with you guys. How about this one? And this is actually why I think Gunnar Helm and Matthew Golden, we were just talking about, quarterbacks having trust in their receivers to the point where Aaron Rodgers knew before he snapped the ball based on if he got a one-on-one with Garrett Wilson, didn't matter. I'm throwing it up to my guy, going to give my guy a chance. I think the guy that may be developing that kind of trust with Quinn, or maybe guys, plural, developing that kind of trust with Quinn, maybe Matthew Golden and Gunnar Helm. Kind of are they earning that trust, if you will, too? Here is the stat about Matthew Golden that I think is intriguing that I found. So in SEC plays, shout out to StatCat, in SEC play with the if you're looking at the best catch rate for receivers on contested targets. All right. So you're talking about contested targets. Matthew Golden, he right now is at contested catch targets 66.6%. Of his contested catches or contested targets, he's been able to bring down. That's the highest number in FCC play ahead of Week 10. So if you're matter of fact, he just had one of these in the Vanderbilt game. Remember that 2-yard touchdown? I think it's like a 2 or 3 yard touchdown. It's an out route. They ran a rub concept. It was, I believe, 12 personnel. And it was a 2x2 set, twins, and essentially twins route. They run a rub concept, and he runs the out route. Great throw by Quinn. I believe it was a one-handed catch too. Now we're obsessed with one-handed catch. If I'm not mistaken, I believe initially, was it not a one-handed catch? I think it was a one-handed catch. Anyway, maybe I'm giving Matthew Golden too much credit, but either way, it was a contested catch. I know that. And so he just had one of those, and that was in the red zone. And that's, I think Quinn trusts, Matthew Golden in that red zone too. We've seen that. We have established that early in the season. So, if you're looking at someone in that red zone, that's got to be somebody you got a lot of trust in. And I also think the fact that he can come down with those contested catches. Remember, CeeDee Lamb was actually remarking about that when he was asked about Dak's interceptions. He said, no, we got to start fighting for Dak at the top of the routes better. We got to start fighting for Dak. I mean, yes, if it's those windows in the NFL are really small windows, man. They're really small. And so what was open, it closes in a split second. And sometimes open just ain't as open as you thought. But your receiver can really help you out. And Matthew Golden is one of those guys, fights for his quarterback. Gunnar Helm, also a little surprising here with one of the stats that shows you how Gunnar Helm is a quarterback's best friend too. If you go look at the and this is actually catches on contested, basically not contested targets, but on pass attempts under pressure, like basically targets on pass attempts under pressure. Gunnar Helm, and shout out to Gunnar Helm right now. He is second in that category. If you look at most successful pass catchers on pressured attempts, so targets with your quarterback under pressure, he right now has a success rate. We talk about success rate all the time. That's 50% of the yards needed to gain on first, 75% of the yards needed to gain on second, and on third and fourth, 100% of the yards needed to gain to get the first down. And Gunnar Helm, his success rate, the second highest success rate in the SEC, in SEC play, as a pass catcher on pressured attempts. That's why Quinn. So Quinn looks for him. Or Arch too, I guess, because Arch has a couple of stars too. But Quinn, when he's under pressure, and we talked about Quinn, that's the test for him, right? How does he respond to pressure? We just talked about this with CJ Stroud. As a quarterback, every quarterback will see a drop-off, a regression under pressure, under duress. But as a quarterback, how do you mitigate that damage? How do you keep your team out of bad, negative plays when you're under pressure? And that's the key. And CJ Stroud can do that last night. And Quinn Ewers couldn't do that versus Georgia. The really good quarterbacks, high level ones, you put a lot of pressure on them, and they may not be making, elite plays under pressure. Every now and then you do. Hell, Quinn under pressure against Michigan had a higher Pro Football Focus rating under pressure than he did from a clean pocket. He was in the zone and he put the cape on. That's not always the case. But you just have to keep your team out of negative plays. Even against Vanderbilt, right? When they applied pressure to Quinn with the blitzes, he didn't necessarily keep you out of negative plays. It wasn't all his fault, but tip passes, sacks, those are the plays you're trying to avoid under pressure as a quarterback. So for Gunnar Helm, when he's under pressure, he's looking for Gunnar Helm. Gunnar Helm is obviously, I think, one of the targets he trusts. But when he is under pressure, Gunnar Helm has been money for Quinn Ewers. Another shout out to Gunnar Helm. When you look at explosive receptions, just explosive receptions overall, Gunnar Helm, 31% of his receptions have been explosive, of the explosive variety. And when you think about it, he's not running the seam routes and the downfield routes that you've seen a lot of the time with with JT Sanders last year. A lot of his is yak yards. He's hurdling guys and catching the football in short intermediate routes and able to get you some yak yards. It's not always deep shots already down the field. Sometimes it's both. I think I've seen him do both, catch it deeper down the field and give you some yak yards. Hell, remember I would say he has mossed a couple of guys lately too, though. I don't know where that came from with Gunnar Helm. Remember in the Oklahoma game, they had the double pass. He gets up and mosses like 3 defenders for Oklahoma. You're like, was that Gunnar Helm doing that? And then he did it again. He did it again in the Vanderbilt game. Remember, he mossed he mossed somebody. He just went up and just mossed the dude. I don't know what's going on with Gunnar Helm and that white men can jump, and Gunnar Helm is proving it. He's going up and just high pointing the football. So he's got both. He got some yak yards. He's a yak daddy, and he can go up and moss you. And Helm is real, and that's also that's a contested catch. So that's also, if you're a quarterback, you love that. You love a guy that can go up and make a contested catch for you, and even when you're not 100% accurate. Or you didn't make the best decision because he wasn't open, he can make you right. Now, that was Matthew Golden throwing the double pass. It wasn't Quinn, but you get my point. Same thing. So Gunnar Helm, man, who knew? He's your most explosive receiver right now. Arguably your most explosive receiver, and he's the one that Quinn trusts the most when he's under pressure. It's good stuff. All right, we come back. We got off the record when we come back. I think we should play this audio from Micah Parsons and Trevon Diggs talking about the best quarterbacks in the NFL without mentioning their own quarterback and discuss. We'll do that when we come back right here on the Rodcast featuring Patrick Davis of Lifetime Horn. Rod Davis coming back on the horn. All right, welcome back to the Rodcast. Time to get into a little off-the-record conversation here. And that's when we talk about some wacky, crazy stories from the sports world and beyond. Let's hear from Michael Parsons and Trevon Diggs. Trevon Diggs was on Michael Parsons' podcast this week. And they were talking about their favorite, this the top quarterbacks. Like who they think the top quarterbacks are in the NFL. And they went through a list of like the top 8 quarterbacks. Problem is, I think they left somebody off of this list. Here is Michael Parsons and Trevon Diggs.
Where would you rank him among quarterbacks right now? I would say he's definitely top 10.
Higher.
You think he's top 5?
For sure. Who else you gonna put in there?
Give us your top 5 right now.
I'm gonna go him. I'm gonna go Mahomes.
Barr. Gotta have Barr.
Yeah, Lamar, Josh Allen. Jalen playing pretty good right now too.
Jared Goff is a top 5 quarterback right now.
And Matthew Stafford. I love how Matthew Stafford played the quarterback position.
Sam Darnold could be in the top 5 conversation right now.
Yeah, Sam Darnold looking crazy too. So it's hard as a lot of good quarterbacks now.
I can't give you a top 5 right now based on how everybody's performing.
Yeah.
You know? It's just too hard.
Initially, the guy they were talking about was Jaden Daniels, so I should have set that up. That Jaden Daniels is the guy they initially were talking about, and Michael said, "No, I think he's top 5," and Jaden Daniels was like, "Oh yeah, for sure, he's top 5." So they never mentioned Dak. Not one mention, not one like, "Oh, my man Dak is in there for sure," or just out of courtesy, if anything, just to mention Dak. Or like they didn't. I haven't listened to the entire episode of the podcast. I will admit that. So maybe they get into a deeper discussion and they talk about Dak. This is the clip that's kind of making the rounds. I imagine Michael will have to clarify on his next podcast about either forgetting or failing to mention Dak when they start discussing top 10 quarterbacks in the NFL. I'll admit he's not playing like that right now.
No, he's not a top. They're naming top 5 quarterbacks in the NFL playing right there, playing like that right now, and he's not in that conversation. So they're not wrong.
They're not wrong. No, I agree. They mentioned Sam Darnold. That's like, ooh, so they definitely are talking about quarterbacks right now. So yeah, right now. And yeah, that truth is Dak's not in that conversation. But I can't wait till he has to clarify that. And then when you clarify, you're going to say, well, Dak's not a top 8 quarterback right now. So that's why we didn't mention it.
No, he's not a top 5. We know that he's not, and he's not playing like he is. And now he could play like he is, but he ain't right now.
Yeah. I think the way I would do it if I was Mike, I'd be like, because I think, like I said, this is going to blow up a little bit because I just saw it on ESPN. So when it blows up, then they'll have to address it. And they were like, so is Dak in your top 8? And what I would say is like, if I'm talking about quarterbacks, period, and where they rank, Dak is a top 10 QB. But I was just talking about quarterbacks and how they're performing right now. It still sounds bad. It still sounds not saying it still sounds bad. It still sounds like you're saying he right now is not playing at a top 10 level, which he is not.
No.
So, but there are some must-lie situations, and I almost feel like you're on the verge of one right here.
No,
this is a do I look fat in this dress kind of question.
No, your basic only is, like, I'm doing it off of quarterbacks I'm scouting, and I don't scout Dak Prescott. We're defensive players, so we don't scout our own quarterback. We play against him, we don't scout him, and so I scout all the rest of these guys because I have to play him.
That's decent. That's a good answer.
That's the best I've got so far. You've got one
better.
better.
That's not bad. That's not bad. No, it's not bad at all. That's not bad at all. I don't have anything better. So how am I gonna hate on that? That's not bad at all. It's a tough situation because I feel like Mike is gonna have to explain and clarify.
No, and there's a decent enough chances. Well, he's not playing like a top 5 quarterback.
No, he might say it. Like you said, and that's why I wonder if he would just say it. Like, well, he ain't playing like a top 10 quarterback right now, but I know it's in him, and he will be by the end. Yeah. I wonder if he'll just be straight up. But something tells me he won't. With the Cowboys, they have beef within the team and stuff like that. So who knows? That stuff may happen. Who knows? But there you go. That's the clip that's making the rounds, and they left off Dak. Dak right now isn't playing bad, but he's got way too many turnovers early in the season. He's got 8 interceptions. I think he had 9 all of last season. We'll talk about this when we preview Cowboys versus Atlanta Falcons, but it's the turnovers. He's got multiple games with multiple turnovers. That's the big issue for Dak right now. He got to cut down on those, but I don't know. That's not all his fault because the offense is one-dimensional, so everybody knows he's throwing the football. He doesn't have the weaponry on the outside because Brandon Cooks is now dealing with the injury. And honestly, the lack of a running game to me.
Oh, no. It's the least quarterback-friendly offense.
Yeah.
And unfortunately for him, he's got to figure out the way through that because you're the quarterback of the Dallas Cowboys and everyone's going to look at you anyway. So you got to figure out the way to not turn the ball over. But, that's you know, if you're a Cowboys fan, the thought is, do you want him to push the ball down the field and throw some picks or take the checkdowns and not throw picks? So your two options, because he's just not getting, it's not like he's missing wide open receivers.
No, he's actually relatively accurate down the field. We were talking about that the other day. It's just that I think they're just predictable. And like you said, it is not a quarterback friendly offense. And I don't even think it's a Dak friendly offense now, because it used to be that was the Tex Coast offense. It was all about being a Dak friendly offense. But without the running game, they're too predictable. And Dak's taking too many chances now downfield. But he has to.
No, I mean, who thought
he's got no choice.
A injured Tony Pollard was going to make such a difference? I mean, at least he was an actual running back, like an actual starting running back.
You have your longest run this season is 13 yards, guys. You're the only team in the NFL that doesn't have a rush over 20 yards. The only team in the league.
Crazy.
You got CeeDee Lamb's got I think a 12-yard run and a 10-yard run.
And then you also have one of the least mobile quarterbacks in the NFL now too.
Yeah, Dak's not running as much.
No, it's not that he's not running. He can't run the way he used to. Like his injury, just watch him move.
Not, yeah.
He after his injuries, he just doesn't move very well out of the pocket and scramble well. That's like you watch guys like CJ Stroud. CJ Stroud's not really a great runner, but he understands the get to the line. And it's he's young enough. Dak's just, as he's getting older and the injuries have piled up on him, he just does not run well at all. And so now you say that you don't even have a quarterback that can really get you to the outside and pick up those 4 or 5 yards on a third down. You need to have something that you can throw that you can do that's easy on a third down, and they just don't have it.
They don't. No, I'm with you on that. Yeah, at this point, Dak is every quarterback who started the first 7 games of this season for their team in the way that Dak has. Basically, if you look at it, Dak has the second fewest rushing attempts of all eligible players among that group. So he's not running. Like he's choosing not. Jerry even brought it up. Jerry said, we don't ask Dak to do that. We don't want Dak to do that. But as I pointed out, a scramble for our quarterbacks is the most effective play in football today. It averages like 8.5 yards per play on scrambles. And it seems like more quarterbacks, it is statistically more quarterbacks are taking advantage of that because more quarterbacks are scrambling. So scramble rates have increased. Dak is choosing not to scramble. And I understand why, because he could get hurt. And like you said, he's just not good at it really anymore. He's just Father Time is undefeated, and Father Time has taken his toll. He's just not that swift, not fleet of foot anymore. So that's another element you don't have in the Cowboys offense. And some other offenses have that scrambling, element kind of baked into the offense. All right, we'll talk more Cowboys on the other side because we'll get into previewing the Atlanta Falcons matchup they have this weekend. We'll also dive back into Texans and the Jets. Texans taking an L to the Jets after Jets won a 5-game losing streak and were able to snap that with a win over the Texans last night. We'll also get into some of the college football action of the weekend. We're going to have some really good college football games. We'll start talking about some of those coming up next right here on the Rodcast featuring Patrick Davis. I'm Lifetime Longhorn. Rod Davis coming back on the horn. Hey, what's up, folks? Lifetime Longhorn Rod Davis here. Let's talk about Dr. Greg Eckert and his wonderful team. I can personally testify to how great this group is, folks. I initially went there just for a routine cleaning and a checkup, and their checkups are so thorough. In fact, I'd encourage you to get one yourself. They'll find out if something's wrong, and I had something wrong, something that was going horribly wrong. Actually, my wisdom teeth were growing in sideways. It was impacting my molars, causing all types of issues, and I was starting to get a little stressed out about it, but there was no need. I was in great hands with Dr. Eck and his team. They acted swiftly. They didn't want that to cause any more damage, so they acted quickly, made sure I was educated and informed about the process, made sure I was comfortable, more importantly, with the process, got the procedure scheduled. I got it done. I was back at work within a couple of days, and thanks to Dr. Eckert and his team, my dental health and dental hygiene have never been better. Thanks to them. And they can do the same for you. Now, hopefully, it's not as serious as having all your wisdom teeth extracted. Hopefully, it's something rather routine for you. But even if it is something really serious, trust me, you're in good hands. You're in great hands with Dr. Eckert and his team. And if it's general dentistry or porcelain crowns or teeth whitening or dentures or veneers, dental implants, doesn't matter what it is, whatever it takes to make sure you are getting the best quality dental care available, that's what Dr. Eckert and his team are all about. And right now, they have the ability and the technology to give you a brand new smile in just one day, permanently secured to your dental implants. No time spent without teeth. You'll get temporary fixtures until they complete your permanent smile, and you'll smile again with confidence and eat freely without pain or discomfort. We're talking about a lifelike permanent solution. So if you've been told your teeth need to be replaced and you've been told that you need dentures, don't freak out today. Don't start stressing. Just call Dr. Eckert today to learn about this revolutionary alternative to dentures. It's a brand new smile in just one day, complimentary consultation, which means you got nothing to lose, but you got so much to gain, because a confident smile can truly change your life. And Dr. Eckert wants to change your life for the better. He did it for me. He can do it for you. Give him a call, 512-345-3166. And right now, getting close to the end of the season, and close to the end of the year, you want to use those benefits before you lose those benefits. And that's doing what's best for you and your family. And Dr. Eckert can help you out there as well. And if you go to Dr. Eckert's office and you tell him that you heard it right here on the horn, you get a free Zoom whitening treatment with any procedure that you're getting done there with Dr. Eckert. So give him a call, 512-345-3166, or visit drueckert.com, drueckert.com. Welcome back to the Rodcast. It is a Freak Flag Feel Good, Fake It Till You Make It. Ric Flair, woo! 512 Football Friday edition of the Rodcast. And 512 means that my co-host, the Idillionaire Patrick Davis, that means he's playing jams from local bands and artists, very talented human beings that you have a chance to catch live right here in the ATX. Who we jamming right now, Patrick?
This is, and by the way, I don't know the reason for this name, Annabelle Chairlegs.
Annabelle Chairlegs?
Annabelle Chairlegs is the name of the band. They are playing Sunday at the 13th floor.
Man.
And if you can tell, some of these bands, like Nolan Potter's Nightmare Band and the Annabelle Chairlegs, and then we'll play the next one too, all part of that Levitation Fest that's at all these different clubs. That Nick talked about on Wednesday. Is kind of used to be Psych Fest. Now it's Levitation Fest, but kind of trippier music.
Hey.
You can get it where it's a little bit, it's a vibe. You can feel the vibe, right?
Yeah, I mean, you got to be tripping a little bit out there.
Yeah, you got to be, a little levitated.
Exactly, a little levitated. Yeah, no doubt. Yeah, I like that. All right, thank you, Patrick, for the all of your efforts for 512 Friday. Also, Patrick hooks us up with the topic for the big fat poll of the day, and this one Texas basketball related. For those who are unaware, Texas basketball season starting up next week.
Yes,
Patrick, give the folks the topic for the big fat poll of the day.
Big fat poll of the day. What is your minimum expectation for Texas basketball this season? Win the SEC, 2%. That's not a main concern. This is not conference play. This is about tournament play in college basketball. Win one game in the tournament is at 47%. 40% says Sweet 16. And you get 11% for Elite 8.
Okay. Yeah, I'm at, win a game in the tournament. I need you to win a game. I need that to become now the floor, like the basement of expectations. Win a game in the tournament, and then you start building on that, right? You start building on, if you can start making runs in the tournament, get into the Sweet 16. Can you do it in back-to-back years? Can we do it in, that, because I think that you got to build this, and that's what Texas basketball has been doing, building up to this point. And we're built up to the point where now the expectations are, all right, tournament every year and win the game in the tournament. That is still not a guarantee for Texas basketball to be able to win a game in the tournament.
And I'll tell you, a big thing for this season that is kind of, in the new landscape of basketball and of college basketball and, NIL and bringing people in, is how Trey Johnson is used and how well he performs, because that is when your top prospects are looking at coming to Texas. They want to make sure that they're coming to a place where they are going to be used properly and pushed in that way. So I think that what Trey Johnson does, and now that goes into, if he plays at a really high level, guys like that help you out. CB sent us a stat. Thank you, CB, for doing my job for me again. Sent us that no one and done has ever made it to the second weekend of the NCAA tournament at Texas. So none of the one and done big names at Texas have ever gone and achieved. Stat. So a really good stat. So CB sent us that one earlier. Those are, it is difficult for one and dones. And now a lot of this came in a previous iteration where it was, the whole game plan was you get one and done, and then you build this group of guys around them that have all played together for years, and you try and insert that one guy in to make it work. And sometimes you're getting that one and done at the beginning of that group of guys, so it doesn't necessarily hit the right timing of when that group of guys, the rest of your team, you're not getting a bunch of juniors and seniors, you're maybe getting freshmen and sophomores with them. And so your team isn't as prepared to make that run. Now you are transfer portal every year. It is just a new team every year. This is a very different lineup for Texas this year. We'll go on Monday. Over the weekend, I'll put together a precise and a lineup, one that'll be a little bit, that we'll get as much we can put in there about expectations and who to look for and what to look for Texas. I'll put that together this weekend so we can talk about it on Monday before their game against Ohio State. But we'll get into a little basketball world of it starts for Texas basketball, and then hopefully we'll have a top-ranked Texas basketball team and a top-ranked Texas football team, and everybody will be happy on the 40 acres.
Love that. Yep, good stuff there, Patrick. Yeah, and I can't wait to start previewing Texas basketball. You always do a great job with that. We'll have that on Monday, and of course, we'll be previewing Texas football on Monday too. Their matchup versus Florida. They'll be done with their bye week. But let's talk about some of the other college football games around the country. We'll do that here in this segment, and then also preview Cowboys versus Falcons. We'll do that probably in Rod's Rant. We'll talk some college football here and look around the college football landscape without Texas playing this weekend. But first, let's get the Horn headlines in there, and let's get educated. Let's get updated. Let's get informed with all the top stories of the day with Patrick Davis and the Horn headlines, and we'll come back and we'll dive into some college football action. But first, the Horn headlines and Patrick Davis.
All right, your Horn headlines brought to you by Top Gun Rentals and Lawn Equipment. In the NBA, the Spurs got a win over the Jazz 106-88 last night with Victor Wembanyama getting his second career 5x5 with 25 points, 9 rebounds, 7 assists, 5 steals, and 5 blocks. And the Rockets took down the Mavs 108-102, led by Jalen Green with 23 points. Kyrie Irving and Luka Doncic combined for 57 points in the losing effort. In college football, Texas gets the week off while number 18 Pitt faces number 20 SMU in an ACC matchup. Number 5 Miami goes against a 6-win Duke team. Number 1 Oregon travels to Michigan. Number 2 Georgia takes on Florida. Number 10 at Texas A&M looks to remain unbeaten in SEC play against South Carolina. And number 3 Penn State tries to beat number 4 Ohio State for the first time since 2016. And in the NFL, the Texans took a loss to the Jets 21-13 on Thursday Night Football, with C.J. Stroud being sacked 8 times in the game. This Sunday, the Cowboys head to Atlanta to take on the Falcons, while the late window is headlined by the Lions versus the Packers. And on Sunday Night Football, the Colts take on the Vikings. And that is your Horn headlines.
All right, thank you, Patrick, for the Horn headlines. We appreciate those. Let's talk about some of the big games, and there aren't a ton of them, but there's a really big one. You talked about it, the Ohio State Penn State game, top 5 matchup in college football. And you know, I like James Franklin. I've always said that I'm a James Franklin fan. All right, but I don't trust James Franklin because of that. Because I've watched him and I've picked him. I don't trust James Franklin in big games.
No, I mean, again, we said the last time Penn State won this game was 2016.
Yeah, and by the way, they've been the last 6 times where Penn State has been a home underdog. Last 6 times where Penn State has been a home underdog, they've lost as a home underdog. Last 6 times, and usually that's because they got a big dog or a blue blood coming into town. That's pretty good. So here are a couple of stats on Penn State. And the question is, because I believe Penn State's quarterback I haven't looked at the injury report, but I know he got injured. Drew Aller got injured versus Wisconsin. He hurt his left knee. He didn't return that game, and head coach James Franklin says he expects him to be in a game time decision. That's big. That's real big. All right. That's something to watch too. And also something to watch is on the Ohio State side, they lost their starting left tackle. I'm talking, this guy's going to be a top 50 pick. They lost their starting left tackle with a season-ending knee injury. And then they put in this kid, Zen Mikowski, who just, let's be honest, he struggled a little bit. Across 2 games, Pro Football Focus had him with the 7th worst pass blocking grade among FBS tackles in the 2 weeks he played. Then he got hurt. He actually was carted off the field versus Nebraska. So they moved the left guard, Donovan Jackson, over to left tackle. And then they put in a sophomore, Luke Montgomery, a left guard. So they may have some O-line issues. And Penn State, they got some dogs on their defensive front. They got speedy edge defenders, Abdul Carter, Dennis Sutton. They got some guys that can go. And Penn State, look at their pass rush win rate. Say that 5 times fast. They are top 10 in pass rush win rate. And if you go look at their pressure rate, they're top 15 in pressure rate in the country, 38%. The Buckeyes had a tough time protecting Will Howard against Nebraska. If they got a tough time protecting him, Penn State might be able to exploit that. But can Penn State score with Ohio State if their quarterback is injured, or hell, they have a backup quarterback in there? That to me is the major issue. But I wouldn't be surprised if Penn State was able to get over the hump versus Ohio State this year. It wouldn't surprise me, because it would be mostly because of the addition of Colton Nicky, the Kansas OC that went up there, and they're running that Kansas offense now. And that offense is really imaginative. It's innovative, and he'll have a ton of tendency breakers ready to go in this game. Now, does he have his starting quarterback? Does he have, Drew Aller there? Do they have to go to backup quarterback? That, I think that is a big question. But either way, if they're able to win, it'll be because of some really innovative concepts offensively and the new culture they have there offensively with Andy Koltenicky. Hell, Kansas is missing them too, by the way. I thought Kansas would still be able to, and they still look like they are still one of those creative offenses, but they're not what they were when Koltenicky was there. They definitely miss him, and that is Penn State's game. So those are the storylines to watch there. But ultimately, really hard to pick Penn State or James Franklin in a big game. Penn State has lost 12 straight regular season games versus top 10 opponents. 12 straight regular season games versus top 10 opponents since an upset win over Ohio State in 2016 as a 19-point dog. The Nittany Lions were ranked in all 11 of those games and ranked in the top 10 in 7 of those games. They're top 5 now, but still, that's why you can't trust James Franklin in a big game. Penn State has lost 14 of his last 16 games as an underdog. They're an underdog, a home underdog, where they've lost 6 straight as a home underdog. Their 2 wins came against Wisconsin, I believe. And under James Franklin, Penn State 3-17 versus Michigan, 2-8. 3-17 versus Michigan and Ohio State, but 2-8 versus Michigan and 1-9 versus Ohio State, but 3-17 versus those 2 schools. And that's the demon he's got to exercise. Like he's got to find some way to beat Michigan and Ohio State. That's who he's got to beat, because Penn State's always pretty damn good under James Franklin. They can't get over the hump, and over the hump is them beating Ohio State, them winning the Big Ten championship, them beating Michigan. That's their version of getting over the hump.
Yeah.
And this might be a good chance to do it.
Yeah, beating Michigan, this is the year to do that.
Well, yes, of course. Everybody's taking their turns on that one. But yes, usually when Michigan is better, a better place, they're hard to beat for Penn State anyway. So there you go. Right now I'm leaning Ohio State because I said until James Franklin gives me a reason to trust him in a big game, I cannot do it. And I said I'm a fan. People think I'm a hater when I say that. No, I'm a fan of James Franklin. I've been watching him a long time, so I know his limitations. And one of his limitations is he's just not a real good big game coach. But Andy Koltenicky could change that. We shall see. All right, there you go. So that's the biggest game of the college football weekend. Another game I think just we should be interested in, Longhorn fans, is that Ole Miss at Arkansas game. You talked about that one, Patrick. I think this one is going to be pretty interesting. I'm not, because Ole Miss they got some of the same issues that Texas has. They look like a very different offense the deeper they get into SEC play. They just don't look like the same offense that they looked like in the first 5 weeks of the season. Now, how about this one? If you go look at since week 5, Ole Miss, their overall, if you go look at that pass blocking grade by Pro Football Focus is 109th. Their pressure percentage is 128th. Their run blocking grade is 125th. They are just not the same offense. They still got good players, but it's clear that they're struggling with kind of what their offensive identity is. I just don't think they're physical enough right now as an offense, and that's the problem with this Arkansas matchup. Arkansas is very physical, offensively and defensively. And the offensive line for Ole Miss, they're struggling a little bit in pass protection. They're struggling in run blocking too. And the Arkansas defensive front, I like their defensive front. I like Landon Jackson. He's going to play on Sundays, the edge defender. Defensive tackle Eric Gregory. He's a really good player for them on that defensive front. So that's what I worry about with Ole Miss. They've been regressing offensively in SEC play. They do have a really good defensive front. I mean, Ole Miss leads the nation. You go look at it in run defense grade and tackling grade by Pro Football Focus. They're second in yards per carry allowed overall too. So their defensive front is good. They got good linebackers. Chris Paul Jr., interior defender Walter Nolan. They're all among the best at their position in the country right now. Arkansas may be missing Jaquindon Jackson because he was unavailable. He was unavailable in their last game, so we've got to see if he's going to be available in this game. He's dangerous too, but if he's doubtful for the game, I believe, I haven't looked at the latest injury report, but he's doubtful. If he doesn't play, they still got a beast in Braylon Russell. He's impressive too. He's averaging like 7 yards per carry on 43 attempts. And Jaquindon Jackson's been one of the better running backs in the country too. So they got a really deep backfield, and Taylor Green is dynamic at quarterback. He has 511 rushing yards. He's fourth among Power 4 quarterbacks in rushing yards right now, and he's actually been decent under pressure. He's actually been getting better and better under pressure. Now, can he finish the game because he's has been taken out of a game because of injury? But Arkansas might just be a bad matchup for Ole Miss. I think Ole Miss can win it, but it's a bad matchup for them overall, I think, because his dual threat ability can nullify the advantage they have on the front seven, because he can move around and he can make plays, extending plays, out the scramble drill, coloring outside the lines, and that boosts their running game too. So the question is, Ole Miss's offense, how does it match up with that Arkansas defense? So that's one I'll watch too. The Georgia-Florida game, I know that's a future opponent for Texas, but man, Georgia should just mollywop Florida. They should. With DJ Lagway starting, right? Because Grant, I believe Mertz is hurt now. I think he's like dealing with an injury.
Yeah,
so I think it's a DJ Lagway show. Man, come on, against a Kirby Smart defense, you see what Kirby Smart's defense did to Quinn Ewers.
The question is, do they flip the switch again, or do they go back to the same team that played Kentucky close,
or Mississippi State scored with 30 on them or something?
Yeah,
no,
are they that team?
Yeah, no, they probably will be. Actually, they probably will be. I guess the point that if Kirby Smart chooses to, he can really play mind games with DJ Lagway. But DJ Lagway is gonna make some plays, man. He's got a strong arm, he's got a cannon for an arm, and he can move around and extend plays. So we'll make some plays. But my thing is, when he does, Kirby Smart he'll shut that down like he did when Arch came in the game. Arch got that 20-some yard run there. I was like, see, put Arch in there. Arch will extend the play, and Arch can improvise better. Maybe true, but against Kirby Smart, they don't last long. He usually puts the kibosh on that pretty quickly by making adjustments. So I think they'll bludgeon Florida. It may be closer early on, but man, Georgia has won the last 3 meetings with Florida by a combined 119-47.
Yeah. The question, the question for me is just, does this look like the Georgia team that played Texas, or does this look like the Georgia team that played Ole Miss in Kentucky? Like, did they turn it on for one night, or is it on now for the rest of the season? Great question. Are now on the warpath, and you better not get in their way. That's more the question I'm looking at watching this game, because they'll beat Florida either way. But one of them is, well, we beat Florida by 14, and the other is we beat Florida 56-6.
No, you're right about that. Yep, because college football should be very afraid, if they start just getting better from that Texas game on. But if they just kind of go back to flipping the switch, okay, well, maybe I flip the switch one time and there's no electricity.
And I want to see what this offense does, because even against Texas, that offense didn't look good. I know that's Texas defense, but if they figure out that offense as well to go along with how good that defense looked. Mm-hmm. So watching what that offense does, and then, Sark will watch what that offense does to see what he can take away for what Texas does next week.
Yeah, Florida's got some athletes. But yeah, you're right. I mean, that offense for Georgia, it has not looked great this season, and it was abysmal versus Texas. We don't talk about that enough, because all we reflect on is how bad Texas offense was, and Georgia ended up winning the game because they made more plays. But now you're right about that. How that offense bounces back is going to be key for them. The another big game, at least I think it's big. The Duke Blue Devils are facing Miami. For Longhorn fans, you get two former Longhorns. You get a former coach in Manny Diaz. That's a nice storyline there. He's going back to Miami, where think about it. He was born in Miami. He's a Miami guy. And you get Malik Murphy, who is right now been playing pretty well as a starting quarterback for the Duke Blue Devils. Here's the thing to keep in mind with this matchup, because Cam Ward has been spectacular. I mean, he'll be in the Heisman conversation. There's no doubt about that. And if you go look at that Duke defense, Manny Diaz has got that Duke defense rolling. This is not your mama's Duke defense. They're one of the top teams in coverage grade in the country, but they have forced 21. They have forced opponents into 21 turnover-worthy plays, and they lead the Power 5 in takeaways. Duke, leads to Power 5 in takeaways. They have forced opponents into 21 turnover-worthy plays in their 8 games, and what makes them so difficult is Manny Diaz is just aggressive. They run blitzes on pass plays. Only 11 Power 5 teams run a higher pass blitz rate than Duke, so they blitz a lot. And if you go look at it, that's how they cause a lot of the chaos that leads to a lot of their turnovers. So how Cam Ward handles the blitz is going to be key. You better have solutions baked into the game plan or built into the game plan. And Duke also, they run the second most zone blitzes in the country. So that's how he manipulates the disguise on the back end. Usually blitz people associate, it's going to be man on the backside of that. Not with Manny Diaz. He'll zone it up a lot of times on the backside of those blitzes and force the quarterback to have to process a little bit longer so the blitz can get home. When it's working, in its ideal way, it is a brilliant scheme. But every now and then, if that blitz doesn't get home, man, you're left with some wide open, as Longhorn fans know, gaps in that defense. If you can just buy some extra time, and we'll see if Cam Ward, who has, he's a guy that can move. They can move the pocket with him. If he buys time, and he's been really good this year, expect Cam Ward to, I think, make some plays against that Duke defense and enough for Miami to win.
And that's really the big thing in this game is, can Duke score points against Miami? Miami gives up points. Like their defense isn't really good. But Duke's only scored over 30 in one game, and that was against Middle Tennessee State. That's your only game they scored over 30 points in, and Miami has scored over 35 in every game this season.
Yeah.
So if you're Duke, you got to get to 30 to really have a shot in this game. You got to get to 30, which you haven't done all season. Now, it's not a great Miami defense, but this offense has to get something going, or else Cam Ward's going to score some points.
Yes. No doubt.
Right. They've played games close. So if your defense can show up late and you can score some points on offense, then you're good to go. But yeah, that for me, it's Malik Murphy has to have a hell of a game because you got to score some points.
Nope, I agree 100%. And getting back to that, I think Malik Murphy will be ready to play. The question is, how will his offensive line hold up? Because they've been great this season, actually. Pressure rate allowed, they're 12th in the nation. If you go look at sack hits on the quarterback allowed on their pass blocking snaps, they have the 9th lowest rate of hits and sacks on the quarterback. So they've been doing really well there. Problem is, they're going up against Miami, and Miami leads the nation in pressure rate, and they're second in pass rush win rate so far this season. And they got some NFL guys on their front seven. So really, that's the matchup to watch. If Duke can give Malik Murphy, because Malik Murphy doesn't move well. I mean, we know that. Malik Murphy, he's got a cannon of an arm, but he barely has functional mobility. Like he doesn't move very well. So if they can collapse the pocket, he doesn't have anywhere to go. And so that's the question. Can their O-line hold up against that Miami pass rush? Because the pass rush may be is one of the best in the country, and their pass blocking they're one of the best pass blocking units in the country. That is the matchup that I think will determine the game ultimately. Let's see, there's another one. Oh, talk about the Aggies. Of course. Aggies will be facing South Carolina. To me, I don't think South Carolina's offensive line matches up well with the Aggie defensive front. The Aggies defensive front is full of ballers. Nick Skirton, Shamar Stewart, Shamar Turner. They got dogs up front, and the South Carolina offensive line has been a dumpster fire this season. It really has been. They've given up a pressure on 42% of dropbacks this year, 3rd worst pressure rate in the Power 4. And if you go look at sacks allowed, I believe they're toward the bottom of college football. In sacks allowed, they're just they're pass leaky in terms of the pass protection. So I just think the Aggies right now, they're a little bit too stout on that defensive front. They play really well together defensively. And South Carolina, how about this, guys? 133rd in sacks allowed in the country. The only team that's allowed more sacks is Oklahoma. Good Lord, what's going on with Oklahoma?
Which South Carolina whooped.
Exactly. In South Carolina, they just can't protect the quarterback right now. And that's a bad matchup going up against the Aggies when you can't protect the quarterback. They play a physical brand of football, and I actually really love that secondary. They actually play really good pass defense. South Carolina is one of the better pass defenses in the country. But that's because teams like to run against them, and the games they have lost, they've been vulnerable to the run. Also, a bad matchup going up against Marcel Reed and the Aggies on the other side, because their run game is what is rolling.
Yeah.
And they got good mojo in the run game. If anything, you want to make Marcel Reed a passer, stop the run game, forcing the pass. Texas will be able to do that. I'm not sure South Carolina can do that.
No, this is for if you're South Carolina, your real only hope is to try and out physical A&M on defense. Is to go in there and just try and stop the run, try and put as many hits as you can on Marcel Reed, on those running backs, and make them think twice, make the offensive. That's really it. Because your only shot is if you try and make Marcel Reed finesse you.
Yeah.
And
I agree.
And if he has to throw a bunch of balls, then you have a shot in that game. But yeah, if you're just letting them run the ball and they're able to pick up 5-6 yards a carry or 4 or 5 yards a carry, you're done. Because you don't have the offense to match it.
Totally agree. And they'll control the game against you too. And
yeah.
So I think that's a bad matchup just for South Carolina. But South Carolina, they could make it interesting, and they do, because that's on the road, right? That's on the road for the Aggies too. It's at South Carolina, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah. So it's that's basically But you have to. That's very much an identity for the South Carolina defense. If you want to be the tough physical team and go up against 4 and 5 star guys, that's the game. Go play against. Go against him and show your identity in that. And if you can do that and hang with them, you did it against Oklahoma, but that Oklahoma team was not as good as this A&M team by a pretty long margin.
Yeah, not even close. The defense is actually comparable, but offensively, no. The offense for Oklahoma is one of the worst in college football right now. All right, there you go. So that's a preview of the big games coming up this weekend. We come back, another big game, this time at the NFL level. Cowboys taking on the Falcons. I'm not feeling good about the Cowboys in this matchup, but honestly, I didn't feel good about them last week. I don't know if I'm going to feel good about the Cowboys until they win a game, and they win it in impressive fashion. So we'll talk about that coming back. All of that and more right here on the Rodcast featuring Patrick Davis. I'm Lifetime Longhorn. Rod Babers coming back on the Horn. All right, welcome back to the Rodcast. Time to get into a little Cowboys talk here. Cowboys taking on the Falcons this weekend, and honestly, the Falcons, they present some problems for these Cowboys. And I think in a lot of different ways, right? More than one way. I think where I start looking at this matchup is looking at the Cowboys offense. So I think the Cowboys will be able to move the football and they will be able to score points versus Atlanta, in my opinion, even though they're a one-dimensional offense. Cowboys, only team, as we talked about today, only team without a running play of 20 or more yards on the season. The Cowboys are right now they're a one-dimensional football team pretty much because they can't run the football, and right now they're over-reliant on their passing game. Which is why Dak has 8 interceptions after throwing 9 all last season, but he's got more interceptions because he's taking more chances and he's throwing the football more downfield than ever before. And I think that's causing him to throw through tighter windows, leading to interceptions. But against the Falcons, first of all, they're bad at pressuring the opposing quarterback. They're 29th in the NFL in pressure rate. That's good for the Cowboys. And they're last in sack rate. Also good for the Cowboys. So Dak should have time. He should have time to comfortably look down the field. Atlanta has allowed a league high 72% completion rate. He should have time, and when you have time, he should be able to, convert. He should be able to have a relatively efficient performance, and that's what's happening against Atlanta, right? You have time because they're bad at pressure rate and they're last in sack rate, and then allows you time to at least be able to be efficient in the passing game. So that's what I expect from the Cowboys: efficiency. They also give up a 22nd highest touchdown rate to opposing quarterbacks. So this is a good bounce back game for an opposing quarterback. Now Atlanta may have been a shootout because they may do the same thing to your defense, but it should be a good bounce back performance for Dak in that respect. Now, if you go look at my concern with Dak, a lot of different concerns with it, but my biggest concern is he's throwing through tighter windows now. That's why he's got the 8 interceptions. He's got multiple games with multiple turnovers. You go look at his tight window throw percentage. I talked about this earlier. He's throwing through a tight window 23% of the time this season. That's the highest rate in the NFL. As a matter of fact, no other quarterback is throwing through a tight window above 20% of the time. So most quarterbacks, they're just not even taking their chances, but Dak is taking those chances. And if you go look at his interceptions, he's got 8 on the season. All of them have come on throws beyond the sticks. Every last one of his interceptions. So he's not afraid to throw the football downfield, not afraid to add that verticality to the offense. But you see he's taking more chances and throwing through riskier windows to do that, and it's leading to more picks. Last season, he only threw 5 interceptions that were in tight windows on throws beyond the sticks, basically. Only 5 interceptions on throws beyond the sticks. Remember, he led the NFL in touchdown passes last season. So his tight window throw percentage beyond the sticks is at 35%. That's the 4th highest rate in the NFL, and that is up from his mark of 25% last season on tight window throws. So that is the big concerns and Dak's got to get that under control. Now, 4 of his 8 interceptions, half of them have come against man coverage. He got 7 touchdowns against man coverage, but there's also come against a lot of man coverage. And to me, that's on the receivers, they're not separating really well in routes. Remember, we heard Troy Aikman said they're running terrible routes. We heard CeeDee Lamb even critiquing the wide receivers, saying they have to fight harder for Dak at the top of those routes. And I think that's the big part of why he's throwing a lot more interception in man coverage. If you're the Cowboys, you should love man coverage because usually that says CDs in man coverage. It's easier for your quarterback to be able to read man coverage. So it'll simplify everything for Dak. But still, you're starting to see the interception numbers for Dak increase in man coverage. And I think a lot of that, he's completing 66% of his passes versus man. But I think ultimately that's on more of the receivers. I'm not saying Dak is not at fault here, but to me, it's on the receivers running better routes, creating more separation for Dak, and fighting for those contested catches. This is what you're going to have to see more of from the receivers, because I think right now, without a running game, Dak's going to continue to push the envelope and push the football downfield in riskier situations unless you can give him some reprieve by giving him bigger windows to throw the football to. And I think also for the Cowboys, they need to bake in more solutions for Dak within the passing game. We talk about, Sark's offense and how quarterback friendly Sark's offense is, because Sark's gives you a lot of easy throws. He calls them opportunity throws, opportunities for a free completion or an easy completion to get your quarterback in the groove and get him in a rhythm. It may be, a little bit it may be extreme in Sark's philosophy with Quinn only throwing the football past 10 yards only 9 times. But I think Mike McCarthy needs more of those for Dak to get him some easy completions. There seems like there's not a lot of easy completions in the offense anymore. And I think that's reflected in, him throwing a lot of interceptions when he's throwing into man coverage. So, but he should be able to have time. And if they don't have time versus the Falcons, trouble. That's a problem. And if Dak's not efficient versus the Falcons, also trouble, because the Falcons also, they play a lot of off coverage too. Their DBs play a lot of off coverage. That should also help Dak out. Right, because you don't have to worry about them coming up, or help the receivers out, I should say. You don't have to necessarily worry about them coming up, playing a lot of bump and run coverage and trying to disrupt the routes of the wide receivers. That's not really how they operate. That's not how they play a lot of, loose man coverage on the outside. And the Cowboys receivers, if they can't get open against this loose man coverage they're going to be seeing versus the Falcons, where they're going to play a lot of off, then once again, like I said, we got big issues. So if the Falcons are creating pressure, which they never do, they haven't done against anybody all season long, that's a problem versus the Cowboys. And if you see that the Cowboys receivers are not creating separation, especially against very, loose off coverage, which they're going to have a lot of, that would also, if I'm a Cowboys fan, that would be concerning. Like, that shouldn't be the case against the Falcons. So the offense, it's a good matchup, I think, for this particular offense. They won't be able to run the football, but you can still move the football against Atlanta without necessarily having to run the football or not having to be balanced at all. You still can do it. Okay, getting to the Cowboys defense just really quickly. This is a good match. Oh, well, it's a bad matchup for them. It's a good matchup for Atlanta in this regard. Everybody's been attacking the edges for the Cowboys without DeMarcus Lawrence and without Michael Parsons. They've just been going at the edge defenders, and it's really a smart move. You go look at it. Remember, at the beginning of the season, everybody was just running downhill on the Cowboys, running downhill right at that defense, specifically at the guts of that defense. Well, that strategy has changed. Now teams are actually directing their run game at outside the tackles, at the edges. The Cowboys have faced the highest percentage of carries directed outside the tackles this season. 66% of their opposing runs outside the tackles, highest rate any defense has faced since 2016, by the way. So it's deliberate. It's intentional. On those runs, specifically, the Cowboys defense has allowed yards to be gained at the third highest rate on runs outside the tackles, and they've allowed the second highest success rate on those runs outside the tackles. So without Micah, without a DeMarcus Lawrence, I can guarantee you the really innovative, creative run game that the Falcons have, they're going to be attacking them edges. They're going right after them, and they do a really good job with Bijan. And also something else I'm concerned about is the Cowboys matching up with 11 personnel. They've been doing it really well so far this year. Remember, Dan Quinn didn't like to use base personnel, but the Cowboys actually with Zimmer, they use a lot of base personnel. I mean, actually are using base personnel at a top 5 rate in the league. When they face up against teams that use 11 personnel, which the Falcons do at the highest rate in the league, they usually match up with nickel. So you expect if Deron Bland comes back, which honestly now I'm not as confident in because Deron Bland did not practice yesterday, and apparently there's some foot soreness he's dealing with coming back off the injury. He was activated, but I'm not sure he's going to play Sunday if he didn't practice Thursday. So that concerns me because that was a reason I thought you may match up a little bit better because with Deron Bland back, you have a deeper secondary. So your nickel package would be more effective without Deron Bland. If you're matching up with nickel and they're going to be 11 personnel, that gives the advantage back to Atlanta, in my opinion, in terms of that matchup going up against your defense. And the Cowboys just can't apply pressure without Micah and without DeMarcus Lawrence. You go look at the pressure rates for the Cowboys. They have, if you call it quick pressure, they've had 14% quick pressure rate so far this season. That's 21st in the NFL. That's basically getting to the quarterback right now, basically before 2.5 seconds. Last season, the Cowboys had a 24% quick pressure rate. Currently, the Cowboys defense has an average time to pressure of 2.9 seconds. Second longest in the league. Takes them 2.9 seconds to get to the quarterback. That's a long time. And they end up without pressure. The Cowboys allow 9 yards per attempt when they fail to get pressure, as opposed to 5.8 yards per attempt when they get pressure. It's taking Cowboys too long to get there. They got more time to look downfield, and Kirk Cousins he'll put the ball where it needs to be. So that's a concern for the Cowboys. Can the edges hold up against the run? Cowboys are the second worst rush defense right now in the NFL. And can those edges actually apply some pressure organically without having to blitz? And I think Zimmer will probably result to blitzing if he has to, but I don't know if you have the secondary to hold up against the blitz, hold up with the blitz without Deron Bland in the secondary. So it's you got to pick your poison there if you're the Dallas Cowboys. All right, we come back. We'll dive into who said that. That's when Patrick plays pieces of audio from the sports world, sometimes beyond the sports world, and then based on the context clues or familiarity of the voice, you have to identify and recall who said that. We'll play that when we come back right here on the Rodcast featuring Patrick Davis and Lifetime Longhorn Rod Babers coming back on the Horn. Welcome back to the Rodcast. It is a 512 Friday edition of the Rodcast. That's when my co-host Patrick plays jams from local bands and artists, very talented human beings who you have a chance to catch live right here in the ATX. Who are we jamming right now, Patrick?
This is Ringo Death Star, and they're playing Sunday at Far Out Lounge, all part of that Levitation Festival happening all across town this weekend.
I like that. All right. Appreciate Patrick hooking us up for a 512 Friday. We also appreciate him hooking us up with the topic for the Big Fat Poll today. That is also posted at the Horn ATX on X. He simply wants to know, what is your minimum expectation for Texas basketball this season, with the men's Texas basketball season starting up next week? And 47% of you who were surveyed says winning a game in the tournament is the minimum expectation for Texas basketball this season. And 41% of you say Sweet 16 is the minimum expectations for you in the tournament. So you got to win a couple of games in the tournament. So, hey, got to win a game, got to win a couple for at least 88% of you guys who took the survey. Go check that out over at the Horn ATX on X. All right, now it's time to play Who Said That? That's when Patrick plays pieces of audio from the sports world, sometimes beyond the sports world, and based on the context clues or familiarity of the voice, you have to identify and recall who said that.
So on draft night, I'm in Austin, Texas, in the hills in Westlake. I did my draft party there.
Mm-hmm.
And really, draft day was crazy. I had got a call at like 15, 16. I think it was the Colts. Hung up the phone in my face. It was a little crazy. But
What happened?
The Colts called my phone on draft day and hung up the phone.
You said hello, and then that was a click. There was a click.
They said hello. This is so and so with the Colts, and then for the call, like they stopped talking and they hung up.
Wow. So they did. Are you sure there wasn't like a disconnection or?
I'm positive.
Oh, that had to be Xavier Worthy.
Yeah, that was Xavier Worthy on Rich Eisen yesterday.
Right. Timmy LaWild was kind of thinking about it. I was like, had to be Xavier Worthy there. Okay, nice. I like that. So the coach just hung up in his face. Didn't end up drafting A.D. Mitchell later on?
They did eventually later after Xavier Worthy. They drafted A.D. Mitchell. So maybe they had the wrong
They called the wrong guy?
But they were around 15. So that would have been closer to the Xavier Worthy range. But I don't know. Maybe they had a trade that didn't go through.
Interesting.
And they were going to trade up and get him or trade. I don't know what it was. But yeah, that is a crazy story. And then the end of it, when he goes, oh, maybe they got disconnected. He goes, no.
Wow.
Like, no, that was blatant that you heard them like in the background, I guess, being like, oh no.
Man, okay. Yeah, that's just weird. That's just very strange. I don't know what's going on there. Cool story though from Xavier. He scored a touchdown last game too, I think.
Yeah.
He's starting to pick up form a little bit. He's definitely not having the season or the impact we thought he would. There with Kansas City, but Kansas City's not having the season we thought they would. They're just undefeated.
And hey,
nobody's having the season
we know what Kansas City's trying to do, and if he's part of that, then he gets to be part of the fun part.
Oh yeah, he's gonna be part of the fun part, no doubt about that. Yeah, just like Kansas City, I'm sure he'll show up just when he's needed most. All right, thank you, Patrick, for everything you do, brother. We appreciate you. You're a real MVP. All you out there, we appreciate you guys for listening. Remember, the revolution will not be televised. We talk about it right here on the Rodcast. We love you guys. We mean that. Take care of yourselves, but more importantly, take care of each other. Have a great weekend, and until Monday, hook 'em and peace.